Hey guys, tonight we're stepping onto the most perfectly trimmed lawns in American history, the 1950s suburban neighborhood. Not the nostalgic sitcom version with laugh tracks and pie on the windowsill. I mean the real one. The one with identical houses, identical smiles, and neighbours who absolutely noticed if your trash can was 2 inches too far from the curb. So before you get comfortable, take a second to like the video and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy this kind of mildly historical bedtime storytelling. And thank you for suggesting this topic, by the way. Now tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's awake at suspicious hours thinking about mid-century lawn etiquette. Now go ahead and dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft white noise hum. Get comfortable. Adjust your blanket. Tuck your feet in so the imaginary 1950s neighbourhood watch can't sight you for improper toe placement. Tonight, we're asking a very important question. Could you survive a single day in a 1950s suburban neighbourhood without being socially exiled? Have you ever wondered what would happen if your grass grew half an inch too tall? If your wife didn't wave enthusiastically enough at passing station wagons? If your husband didn't leave for work at precisely the correct masculine hour? What if your curtains were the wrong shade of patriotic beige? What if you accidentally admitted you didn't like Jell-O salad? Would your neighbours politely smile while secretly drafting your social obituary? Could you endure a world where the real Cold War wasn't just with the Soviets, but with Carol next door, who just bought a newer washing machine than you? And now, congratulations. You've just woken up in 1957. Your lawn is being judged. Your casserole is under review. And someone across the street is already peeking through the blinds. Good luck. You step outside barefoot onto your crisp suburban grass and immediately understand one thing. This lawn is not decorative. It is a moral statement. In 1950s suburbia, your lawn is your resume, your character reference, and your spiritual biography. If a single dandelion dares to bloom, it's not just a plant. It's a cry for help. The mower hums like a ritual offering to the gods of conformity, and you suddenly realize that grass length may determine your social standing more than your personality ever could. Let's talk about the grass itself. It is trimmed to a precise, almost theological height. Not too short, or you appear reckless. Not too long, or you appear negligent. Somewhere in the middle lives virtue. You don't actually know what that measurement is, but your neighbour does. He stands at the edge of his driveway holding a lemonade and squinting with the quiet intensity of a man who has opinions about blade settings. You kneel down and inspect a suspicious patch near the mailbox. Is that clover? Your pulse quickens. Clover suggests whimsy. Whimsy suggests instability. Instability suggests you might someday paint your house a daring shade of pale blue. You fetch the mower. The mower is heavy, metallic, and louder than your inner doubts. You pull the cord. Nothing. You pull it again. It roars to life in a cloud of gasoline-scented determination. This is not yard work. This is penance. You push it forward in straight, disciplined lines like you're ploughing a field of expectations. Across the street, Mr. Donnelly is mowing too. Of course he is. He always is. His stripes are immaculate, horizontal, confident, presidential. You briefly consider angling yours diagonally to assert individuality, but that thought dies quietly. Diagonal stripes are for radicals. You mow in perfect rows. Every pass of the blades feels like you're shaving off potential judgment. The grass clippings collect in neat, obedient piles. You imagine each pile labelled responsible, stable, not a communist. Because here's the thing. In the 1950s, the Cold War isn't just happening overseas, it's happening in hedges. A poorly maintained yard suggests loose values. Loose values suggest loose alliances. And suddenly you're one crabgrass outbreak away from suspicion. Ever tried to pull crabgrass with dignity? It clings to the soil like it pays taxes there. You crouch in the sun, tugging stubborn roots while trying to look casual. A bead of sweat slides down your neck. You hope it reads as hard-working rather than desperate. Your lawn is bordered by a thin concrete walkway. You edge it carefully, carving a crisp boundary between grass and pavement. Boundaries are important. Boundaries say, we are orderly people. We understand where things begin and where they end. The sprinkler clicks on in the late afternoon, ticking rhythmically like a suburban metronome. Water arcs gracefully over your property in a shimmering display of hydration and civic duty. You adjust the nozzle slightly. Too much spray onto the sidewalk suggests carelessness. Too little suggests stinginess. There is, of course, fertilizer. You spread it evenly, walking in slow, deliberate steps like a priest blessing sacred ground. The faint chemical scent rises into the air. It smells like progress. It smells like upward mobility. It smells slightly like ammonia. Children ride their bikes past, tires humming softly. They're instructed not to cut across lawns. Shortcuts are frowned upon. Shortcuts lead to footprints. Footprints lead to uneven patches. Uneven patches lead to questions. By evening, you stand at the edge of your freshly trimmed masterpiece. The grass is smooth, even, predictable. The setting sun casts a golden glow across its obedient surface. You fold your arms and nod subtly, as if approving of a well-behaved child. Inside, the curtains twitch. Someone has noticed. And tomorrow, when the sun rises again over identical rooftops and identical driveways, the grass will continue to grow. It always does, quietly, persistently, testing you. Because in this neighbourhood, your lawn isn't just soil and seed, it's proof, and you will mow it again. It's Saturday morning. The air smells like gasoline and quiet competition. Every man on the block is outside with his mower, moving in synchronized suburban formation. You don't mow when you feel like it. You mow when everyone else does. Too early and you're aggressive. Too late and you're lazy. This is less landscaping and more synchronized masculinity practice. You step out of your house at precisely 9:02 a.m., which is a safe time. Before 9 suggests you're trying to prove something. After 10 suggests you slept in, which suggests weakness. Weakness leads to questions. Questions lead to PTA whispers. You grip the handle of your mower like it's a piece of industrial equipment, and a personality test all at once. Let's talk about posture. You stand upright, not too relaxed, not too tense. You give a subtle nod to Mr. Henderson 2 lawns down. He nods back. This is not a warm greeting. This is acknowledgement. You're both here. You're both mowing. The Republic stands. The engines roar to life one by one, like a flock of mechanical geese clearing their throats. The block becomes a wall of noise. It's strangely comforting. The sound says, we are productive. We are responsible. We are not inside reading suspicious literature. You begin your first pass. The mower vibrates through your arms. The smell of cut grass rises sweet and sharp. The blades whir with disciplined purpose. You move forward in straight lines, carving order into chaos. You cannot wander. Wandering implies uncertainty. Across the street, Mr. Donnelly is already on his 3rd row. His technique is efficient, economical. He empties his grass catcher with the confidence of a man who understands carburetors. You feel a flicker of urgency. You adjust your pace, but not too much. Speed is delicate. Too fast and you look frantic. Too slow and you look disengaged. You aim for steady. Steady is masculine. Steady pays the mortgage. Ever notice how no one speaks during this ritual? Conversation is minimal. You might exchange a brief comment about the weather. Hot one today. Sure is. Translation. I see your progress. I acknowledge your effort. We're equals in grace maintenance. Sweat gathers at your collar. The sun creeps higher. Somewhere inside the house, your wife is rearranging the living room with precise domestic determination. You're both performing your assigned acts in the suburban ballet. The children know better than to interrupt. They watch from the sidewalk, bikes tilted on their kickstands. They understand instinctively that Saturday mowing is sacred. If a ball rolls onto the lawn mid-pass, they wait. No one crosses the path of a moving mower. Not physically, not socially. Halfway through, you notice a patch you missed last week. Slightly uneven, slightly rebellious. Your heart tightens. You double back carefully. Precision matters. This is about more than grass. This is about vigilance. A well-maintained lawn says you are attentive. An attentive man can be trusted. Trusted men are promoted. You finish with the edges. The edging is where character lives. Anyone can mow the middle. The edges reveal who you are. You tilt the machine just slightly, trimming the boundary between lawn and sidewalk into a crisp, obedient line. The line is sharp, clean, almost militaristic. By the time engines begin to shut off across the block, a strange calm settles in. The noise fades. One by one, men step back from their yards, hands on hips, surveying the results. There are no trophies. There is no applause. Just mutual recognition. You nod again at Mr. Henderson. He nods back, this time with faint approval. You both retreat toward your garages, rolling mowers into their dim corners like knights sheathing swords after a particularly grassy campaign. The block now lies silent and immaculate. Uniform, disciplined, safe. And next Saturday, without needing to speak about it, you will all emerge again at 9:02 a.m., engines primed, ready to defend your honour one straight line at a time. Your driveway is your showroom. The station wagon sits there gleaming, chrome polished within an inch of its life. In this world, the car isn't transportation. It's proof you're progressing. If your neighbour upgrades to the newest model, congratulations, you are now spiritually behind. The driveway has become a silent battlefield where horsepower equals self-worth. You stand next to your station wagon with the same posture you'd use to pose with a newborn child. One hand resting gently on the hood, the other hand tucked into your pocket, casual but proud. The paint shines so brightly it reflects your face back at you in mild judgment. Did you wax it enough? Did you wax it too much? Is there such a thing? These questions haunt you. Because the station wagon isn't just a vehicle, it's a lifestyle certification program. Let's talk about the competitors. Across the street, Jim has the newest model. He bought it last month, casually mentioning it at the block barbecue as if the whole street hadn't already noticed. It's longer, shinier. It has a futuristic tail fin that serves no purpose except to whisper, "I have disposable income and good credit." You pretend not to care. You absolutely care. Station wagons line the block on Saturday mornings like chariots before a suburban race. Every man steps onto his driveway in a crisp white t-shirt, hose in one hand, bucket of soapy water in the other. There is no starter pistol, no official announcement, just an unspoken understanding. It's time. You turn on the hose, water arcs through the air like a ceremonial blessing. It splashes across the wagon surface, emphasizing each curve and chrome detail. Washing the car is less about removing dirt and more about maintaining your position in the suburban hierarchy. Cleanliness is status. Sparkle is self-worth. Your neighbour, Mr. Hollinger, uses a chamois cloth, imported from somewhere exotic sounding like Canada. He claims it gives the perfect streak-free finish. You wouldn't know. You still use the same blue rag from the hardware aisle. But you copy his motion, smooth circular swipes, just in case that's the secret. Inside the house, your wife peers through the curtains, evaluating your technique. She won't say anything out loud, but if you miss a spot on the bumper, she will absolutely mention it later, in the soft, disappointed tone reserved for overcooked pot roast and forgotten anniversaries, was 5 years ago, but still. In Suburban was 5 years ago, but still. In suburban time, that's basically yesterday. You force yourself to keep polishing, but your eye twitches involuntarily. You can feel your wagon judging you again. "Why didn't you upgrade me?" it whispers in metallic shame. You wipe harder. Car interiors matter too. You open the door and inhale deeply. The scent is crucial. It should smell neutral. No food hints, no gym shoes, definitely no spilled milk. You rearrange floor mats, flick dust off the dashboard, and pretend you're not panicking about the Cheerio lodged between the seats. Nearby, Jim casually swings his keys around his finger, letting the sun catch the chrome keychain just so. This is a dominance display, like a peacock, but with payment plans. You respond by opening your tailgate with purposeful slowness. Tailgates are the unsung heroes of suburban masculinity. The smoother the hinge, the more respect you command. Yours creaks slightly. You wince. The Olympic events continue. Event 1. The waxing marathon. Who lasts the longest without sweating through their shirt? Who buffs with the enthusiasm of a man achieving philosophical enlightenment? Event 2. The trunk inspection. Neighbours may wander over, peering inside. Organisation matters. A tidy trunk shows readiness. A messy trunk suggests chaos, which suggests instability, which suggests your lawn might be next. Event 3. The engine pretend understanding. You pop the hood and stare at the engine knowingly. You have no idea what any of this does, neither does anyone else. But everyone nods solemnly, as if inspecting the beating heart of the American dream. By late afternoon, the cars sparkle in neat rows. Sunlight glints off chrome. The neighbourhood resembles an advertisement for detergent, masculinity, and consumer confidence. You lean against your station wagon once more. It looks good. It looks respectable. It looks like the car of a man who is doing fine, really, truly, definitely fine. Tomorrow you will drive it to work. You will park next to other wagons. You will compare models in your mind, quietly calculating your economic worth. But today you competed. And even if you didn't win gold, you didn't come in last. And in 1950 suburbia, that's basically the same thing. You peer through your living room window. Across the street, Mrs. Henderson is absolutely peering back. Your curtains are not merely fabric. They are signals. Too flashy, suspicious, too dark, possibly un-American. The correct curtain says, "We are wholesome, modest, and not hiding anything, especially not strange opinions." You step back slowly, careful not to jostle the rod. A single crooked pleat can upend your entire suburban reputation. You smooth the fabric, inspecting every fold with the tense concentration of a bomb technician. In 1950s suburbia, curtains aren't for privacy, they're for presentation. They are your home's facial expression, a silent but powerful declaration of your values. Let's talk about the rules. Your curtains must be light, but not too light. Sheer enough to let sunshine in, but not sheer enough to let your neighbours see you arguing over who burned the meatloaf. Patterns must be gentle, non-threatening. Florals are acceptable if they're small. Large florals, bold. Boldness leads to questions. Questions lead to rumours. Rumours lead to Mrs. Henderson calling her sister about what's happening at your place. You run your fingers along the hems, freshly ironed, of course. Wrinkled curtains say chaos. Chaos says poor housekeeping. Poor housekeeping says moral decline. And nothing terrifies a 1950s neighbourhood more than the faintest whiff of moral decline. Henderson's curtains have been updated. Henderson's curtains have been updated again, soft cream with delicate embroidery. You swallow hard. Embroidery is ambitious. Embroidery suggests culture. You weren't planning to compete today, but here you are, locked in a textile-based Cold War. You adjust your curtains by a single inch. Behind you, the living room buzzes with soft domestic activity. Your spouse is rearranging throw pillows. The television hums faintly, but your attention is locked on the window because the window is locked on you. The glass functions like a two-way mirror, not because of technology, but because every person on this block uses their windows as surveillance equipment. Ever try choosing curtains without accidentally declaring a political stance? In the 1950s, fabric could get you socially executed. Red curtains? Absolutely not. Red is the colour of communism and tomato juice, and only one of those is tolerated. Blue is safer, but too much saturation looks decadent. Beige is ideal. Beige is patriotic. Beige says, we shop at department stores, not underground bookstores. The afternoon sun hits your curtains at an angle, illuminating them like a stage backdrop. You freeze. Are they too bright now? Too cheerful? What if they give the impression you're trying to appear overly cheerful, which might mean you're hiding something? You step forward and dim the light. The curtain shifts mood. Better, more restrained, like a polite handshake in fabric form. Across the street, Mrs. Henderson adjusts her glasses. You're now in an optical duel. You casually pick up a feather duster, your prop, and pretend you're dusting something near the window. This signals, I am a clean, responsible homeowner. These curtains? Oh, I hardly think about them. A lay, of course, but a necessary one. You consider upgrading. You think about catalogues. Catalogues in the 1950s are portals to aspiration. Each glossy page whispers promises, elegance, subtlety, social security through printed cotton. You remember the ad copy, transform your home, elevate your life, impress your neighbours with effortless grace. Effortless grace, of course, requiring 3 hours of ironing. The evening settles in. Golden light filters through the fabric, soft and warm. It's important that the glow is inviting, not seductive, not dim, inviting. The right level of illumination says, this home has stability. This home eats pot roast. This home votes predictably. You sit on the sofa, pretending not to care anymore, pretending you've been calm the whole time. But out of the corner of your eye you see Mrs. Henderson finally step away from her window, a small victory. You exhale, sinking deeper into the cushions. But the battle never truly ends. Tomorrow someone may debut a new valance, or tiebacks, or God forbid, layered drapery. When that day comes, you will once again rise to the occasion, fabric swatches in hand. Because in this neighbourhood, your curtains aren't just curtains. They're reputation, wrapped in cotton. You consider stepping outside in yesterday's slacks. A dangerous move. In 1950s suburbia, even taking out the trash requires presentation. Housewives appear in pressed dresses. Men return from work still structured and crisp. Pyjamas in daylight are a scandal. You're not just dressed, you're on display. You retreat from the doorway, heart thumping with the quiet panic of someone who has narrowly avoided a social misdemeanor. Yesterday's slacks. What were you thinking? Yesterday's slacks look lived in. Lived in looks tired. Tired looks disorganized. Disorganized looks morally questionable. And morally questionable looks like the beginning of a slow, subtle community intervention involving casseroles and concerned chats. You walk to your closet. Pants are creased sharply enough to slice. Pants are creased sharply enough to slice bread. Everything smells faintly of starch, lavender sachets, and quiet pressure. You select a pair of slacks with care. Not the too casual khaki ones, those are for Saturday morning yard work only. Not the charcoal ones, they imply you're trying too hard for a trash run. You choose the medium grey which says, I am awake, tidy, and emotionally fine, even if none of that is true. Next is the shirt. Button down? Too formal? T-shirt? Absolutely not. A t-shirt in public is essentially a cry for help. You choose a casual collared shirt, the kind that looks effortless but actually requires 15 minutes of ironing and the constant fear of coffee spills. You dress, you feel the transformation. Now you are acceptable. Pearls. At 10 a.m. to walk a beagle. You, pearls. At 10 a.m. to walk a beagle. You nod respectfully. This is the level of commitment expected here. The men perform too. Mr. Hollinger arrives home from the office looking freshly assembled, every hair in place, tie still neatly knotted. You suspect he irons his face to maintain that level of smoothness. Men do not allow themselves to look rumpled on their own property. Rumpled suggests vulnerability. Vulnerability suggests you might not be fully in control of your roof shingles. You finally step outside with your trash bag. Immediately you become hyper-aware of the eyes. Not visible eyes, no one ever openly stares. But you feel them behind windows, assessing, cataloguing, rating your outfit like a silent panel of suburban judges. You walk with purpose toward the trash bins, each step a catwalk stride of middle-class respectability. Halfway there, you see Jim at the end of his driveway. He's getting the mail in a work jacket and neatly polished shoes. Just getting the mail, shoes polished. You question everything you've ever known. You give him a small wave. He nods, eyes flicking briefly over your shirt. The evaluation is swift. You pass. Barely. You deposit the trash with strategic nonchalance. Not too fast, or you look nervous. Not too slow, or you look like you're trying to be seen. You aim for a speed that suggests a busy but composed life. Returning inside, you breathe a sigh of relief, but you're not done. The unspoken dress code extends indoors as well. If someone drops by unexpectedly, and they will, you must be prepared. Housewives keep aprons spotless and dresses wrinkle-free even while cooking. Men maintain a certain presentation after work. Shirts tucked, socks matching, hair combed neatly. Slouching is allowed only after 9 p.m, and only in dim lighting. Children, too, must adhere to standards. Overalls clean, dresses neat, shoes tied. Nobody leaves the house looking like they played, even if they actually played. You sit on the sofa and finally loosen your collar. You've survived the trash trip, but the pressure persists. Tomorrow it might be the mailbox, the newspaper retrieval, the Sunday drive. Each event demands attire. In this world, clothing is a language, one you speak even when you'd rather mumble. Because in 1950s suburbia, you don't just live in your house, you wear it. You host a dinner party. This is not socializing. This is evaluation. The roast must be tender. The jello must shimmer unnaturally. Your guests compliment you while quietly cataloguing your furniture, your silverware, and whether your gravy achieved the proper consistency of middle-class success. You smooth the tablecloth with the solemnity of a general reviewing troops. Each fork gleams in the overhead light. Not too shiny, shiny suggests you tried too hard, but dull. Dull says you've given up, and then everyone wonders what else in your life is fading. The table must whisper, "We thrive here," calmly, effortlessly, with matching napkin rings. The clock ticks louder than usual. Dinner parties always begin at 6. 6:30 implies chaos. 5:30 implies desperation. You settle on 6 sharp, which communicates stability, predictability, and a deep respect for casseroles. Your spouse checks the jello mold again. The colour must be unnervingly vibrant, as if it contains secrets. You tilt it slightly. It wobbles with patriotic determination. Good. A jello that doesn't wobble is a cry for help. Let's talk about the roast. It must be tender enough to impress, but firm enough to imply restraint. Anything too exotic is dangerous. No spices from foreign countries nobody can pronounce. Salt, pepper, maybe a whisper of paprika if you're feeling rebellious. Subtlety is king. Over-seasoning is practically a political statement. As the doorbell rings, your entire posture shifts. Shoulders back, smile calibrated, breath steady. You open the door and the guests enter like inspectors disguised as friends. Mrs. Henderson steps in first, wearing a dress so stiff it could stand on its own. She gazes round your living room with delighted approval, a theatrical performance designed to lull you into comfort while she silently grades your decor. You see her eyes land on your new lamp. You pretend not to notice the micro smirk that means adequate, but not inspiring. The Donnellys arrive next. He brings wine, she brings a cake. The wine is a gesture of goodwill. The cake is a test. You must display it prominently. To put the cake anywhere but centre stage is to declare social war. Everyone sits. The conversation begins harmlessly. Weather, work, lawn care. These are warm-up questions like stretching before an Olympic event. Then comes the real game. Casual compliments laced with evaluation. "This is such a lovely home," Mrs. Donnelly says, eyes locked on your bookshelf. Translation: "I'm checking to see if you own anything too intellectual or shockingly lowbrow." "Oh, we love what you've done with the curtains," Henderson adds, her tone airy. Translation: "Those better not be custom, because then you think you're better than we are. Your spouse brings out the roast." Everyone leans forward just slightly, not enough to look eager, just enough to count the glaze, assess the crispness, and gauge the aroma. You slice carefully. Too much force and the meat looks tough. Too little and you look timid. You aim for decisive confidence. Plates are served. Forks lift. Chewing begins. This is the moment. If the roast is good, you ascend one rank in the invisible hierarchy. If it's perfect, you become a household of note. If it's dry, well, the Hendersons will be discussing it in their car before your door even closes. The gravy is next. Gravy must be smooth, thick enough to cling to potatoes, but not so thick it suggests poverty. Watery gravy is a moral failing. You watch anxiously as Mr. Donnelly pours a spoonful over his plate. It flows gracefully. You exhale. Dinner continues, a soft battleground of etiquette and innuendo. Compliments are exchanged, each weighted with meaning. Nobody ever admits they're judging you. They simply say things like, "How interesting," which is suburban code for "I would never do this, but good for you." Dessert arrives, your spouse's prized jello creation. It catches the light dramatically. Your guests lean in with visible approval. It jiggles beautifully. It may be your greatest achievement. By the time coffee is served, you can feel the energy shift. The assessments are concluding. People are tallying scores. You escort your guests to the door with cheerful politeness, fully aware they will discuss your home the moment they are buckled into their car. When the last guest leaves, you close the door and slump against it in relief. The roast was tender. The jello shimmered. The silverware caught the light just right. Tonight, you survived the dinner party surveillance system, and in 1950s suburbia, survival is victory. The casserole dish becomes your weapon of choice. You deliver it smiling, but beneath that smile lies intense strategic calculation. Too simple and you lack ambition. Too exotic and you're suspicious. The perfect casserole whispers stability and mild creativity without threatening anyone's worldview. You hold the warm ceramic dish in your hands like a diplomatic offering. It radiates heat and expectation. The lid is polished. The edges are clean. You've practiced your carrying posture, confident but humble, as if to say, "Oh, this? Just something I threw together," even though you spent 4 hours in a mild panic attempting to perfect it. Because in 1950s suburbia, casseroles aren't food. They're performance art. Your ingredients must be familiar but not boring. cream of mushroom soup is a safe base, universally trusted, domestically adored, and suspiciously shelf-stable. Noodles are fine. Rice is noble. Ground beef is practically required by law. But add too much garlic, too many spices, heaven forbid, something foreign. Suddenly the casserole is a political statement, and you're the talk of next Sunday's coffee hour. You walk down the driveway toward the Hendersons' potluck, with the casserole cradled securely against your chest. The neighbourhood is alive with the scent of competitive cooking. You can smell Mrs. Donnelly's tuna bake from 3 houses away. She added breadcrumbs again, which everyone pretends not to notice but absolutely notices. The casserole arms race is subtle. Nobody admits it exists, but everyone participates. It is the culinary equivalent of polishing your station wagon. Outwardly wholesome, internally full of unspoken rivalry. Wrinkled foil says you don't care. Smooth. Wrinkled foil says you don't care. Smooth foil says your life is under control. You knock on the Hendersons' door. The moment it opens, your casserole is judged. Not rudely, not openly, but the eyes flick downward, taking in the dish size, the weight, the confidence in your grip. You offer a smile. They offer a smile. These smiles say nothing but mean everything. You enter the kitchen. This is the battlefield. Casseroles line the counters like soldiers awaiting inspection. You search for your spot. This is critical. You cannot place your casserole next to something too extraordinary. It will pale in comparison. But you cannot place it next to something mediocre, or you'll look like a show-off. You locate a neutral zone between Mrs. Henderson's modest chicken casserole and the Hollinger's dependable scalloped potatoes. Perfect. You set down your dish and remove the foil with a flourish of controlled humility. Steam rises, heads turn. People pretend not to notice, but they absolutely notice. Your spouse murmurs, "Looks great, dear." Tone carefully measured, supportive, but not overly proud because excessive pride is unseemly in front of neighbours. You mingle. As you chat, you overhear whispers behind you. "Oh, look at the cheese browning, nicely done. A hint of paprika? Daring but restrained. It's not runny. Thank goodness. These are compliments. These are victories." When dinner officially begins, the true test reveals itself. Serving size. If your casserole disappears too quickly, you aimed too low, people are being polite. If it remains full, untouched, abandoned at the edge of the table under the harsh light of rejection, well, you will never recover. But if your casserole steadily diminishes, spoonful by spoonful, at a consistent rate slightly above the neighbourhood average, then you have achieved the suburban ideal. Agreeable success. Mrs. Henderson takes a bite. She pauses. Time stops. She nods with the serene approval of a monarch knighting a noble. "It's lovely," she says. Lovely. The safest, most potent word in suburban vocabulary. By the time dessert arrives, your casserole dish is respectably empty, but not scraped clean. That would suggest desperation. It sits there in perfect post-casserole dignity, a testament to your competence. Later, as you carry the empty dish home, the night cool around you, you feel it. Not triumph, not superiority. Something gentler. Validation. Your casserole has succeeded. You have succeeded. Another day of the suburban culinary Cold War has ended, and tonight at least, peace is yours. The Joneses have a new television. It's enormous. It practically glows with modernity. You didn't want a new TV. You were content. But now your contentment feels like failure. In suburbia, desire is contagious. Progress is mandatory, and envy is dressed up as inspiration. You stand at your living room window, staring across the street with the emotional intensity of a naturalist observing a rare bird species. There it sits in the Joneses' front window, the brand new Zenith, its screen wide and proud, emitting a soft halo of technological superiority. Even from here, you swear you can hear angels singing from inside its walnut cabinet. You weren't even thinking about a new television this week. You were focused on simpler goals, mowing diagonally, ironing your shirt sleeves just so, and pretending your casserole success last weekend wasn't the highlight of your month. But now your entire worldview has been destabilised by the Joneses' appliance-based flex. Let's talk about the rules of suburban acquisition. Nobody says you must keep up. No pamphlet is delivered to your porch. No official signs points to your toaster. It's all unspoken but deeply, fiercely understood. When one family upgrades, everyone else begins quietly auditing their possessions. Your TV, old. Your sofa, slightly saggy. Your lamps, practically antiques. You remember a time when you loved your television last Tuesday. It brought the world into your home with 3 glorious channels. It was a loyal friend. But now, standing in the shadow of the Joneses' upgrade, your TV looks like a box that survived a small explosion. It hums, it flickers, it leans slightly left, which now feels like a personal attack. Your spouse wanders in, coffee cup in hand. They got one of the new models, they say delicately, peeking out the curtain. You nod, the way a soldier might nod while surveying a battlefield. They sure did. Silence falls, the kind of silence that means, we need one too. Later that day, you visit the Joneses for something trivial, a borrowed wrench, a cup of sugar, an excuse to casually inspect the holy relic. The moment you step inside, there it is, larger up close, gleaming, a proud testament to the Joneses' rising stock in the neighbourhood economy. Mr. Jones pats the top of it like a faithful dog. Got it on sale, he says modestly. A lie. Everyone knows it was not on sale. You compliment it because that is what politeness requires, but your heart sags. Not because the Joneses have something nicer, but because now, by comparison, you have something visibly, measurably worse. Suburban value is relative. One family ascends the ladder, and everyone else slides down a rung. You leave their house feeling oddly hollow, like your living room has shrunk. That evening, as you sit down to watch your old TV, its screen fuzzes slightly during a commercial. The sound fizzles. The picture warps. It never bothered you before. Now it feels like living with a wounded soldier. You adjust the antenna, then adjust it again. Your spouse watches patiently, sipping tea. It still works, you say defensively. Of course, they answer sweetly, but imagine one that works better. And there it is, the seed, the suggestion that sprouts instantly into a purchase necessity. A new TV begins to feel less like a want and more like a social obligation. Falling behind technologically risks signalling financial instability, lack of ambition, or, worst of all, contentment. And contentment is dangerous. Contentment means you aren't striving. Contentment means you don't care about progress. And if you don't care about progress, what else might you not care about? Government bonds, neighbourhood safety, the correct temperature of potato salad. You imagine next week's block party, where every neighbour casually drops by the Joneses' house to see their new TV. You imagine the subtle comparisons, the quiet whispers. Have they thought about upgrading? I heard they're waiting. Waiting. Oh dear. You picture it all in vivid detail. The next morning you're at the appliance store. You're just looking, of course, just browsing, just gathering information. But the salesman sees the look in your eyes, the haunted stare of a suburbanite who has fallen behind by exactly one television model. He leads you to the newest display. It glistens. It shines. It has dials you don't understand, features you won't use, and a price that stabs you gently in the chest. But you know, deep down in your very soul, you will buy it. Because in 1950 suburbia, your possessions aren't just objects, they're signals. And you cannot afford to send the wrong one. You attend a PTA meeting. You thought this would be about children. It is not. This is about influence. Who organises the bake sale controls the social hierarchy. Every smile is pleasant. Every suggestion is strategic. You suddenly understand that playground politics extend to the parents. The moment you step into the school cafeteria, you feel the atmosphere shift. The folding chairs are arranged in neat semicircles, but don't be fooled, this is not casual seating. This is battlefield geometry. Each row represents a different level of unspoken status, and sitting in the wrong one could redefine your social life in ways you aren't prepared for. You take a cautious seat in the middle row, safe, humble, neutral. At the front of the room sits the PTA president, Mrs. Caldwell, a woman whose authority is rivaled only by her ability to produce flawless lemon bars on demand. Her hair is immaculate. Her earrings shimmer with passive-aggressive efficiency. When she clears her throat, the room becomes silent in a way that suggests she could lead a small nation if given the chance. Let's talk about the players. To her left, the vice president, a man who has never once forgotten a child's birthday or a school supply drive list. To her right, the fundraising chair, a woman whose smile is so bright it feels like both encouragement and a warning. Behind them, the lesser officers sit in decorative formation, nodding strategically at everything said, ready to pounce on any opportunity to rise in rank. The meeting begins with a deceptively simple agenda item, the upcoming bake sale. This is where the real power struggles live. Mrs. Caldwell asks who would like to coordinate. Several hands rise in perfect synchronization, a ballet of ambition, but she chooses Mrs. Donnelly, whose brownies achieved near-legendary status last spring. You watch as the chosen woman beams, while those passed over smile with outward grace and internal devastation. You can practically hear the gears turning. Next time, I'll add walnuts. Someone suggests moving the bake sale outdoors. A harmless idea? Absolutely not. Suddenly the room hums with soft, polite disagreement, each comment coated in sugar but heavy with political implications. Well, outdoors is lovely, but only if the weather cooperates. Yes, but we wouldn't want the cupcakes to melt. True, but sunlight enhances community engagement. You sit there blinking as you realise these people could negotiate world peace using only dessert metaphors. Then comes the volunteer sign-up sheet, a deceptively innocent piece of paper that determines your standing in the group. Too many volunteer slots and you seem desperate. Too few and you seem uncommitted. You choose a task that says, "I'm helpful, but not trying to overthrow anyone." Meanwhile, Mrs. Henderson leans over with a conspiratorial whisper. "You don't want the juice box station. Trust me." You nod gravely, though you have no idea why. Later you learn that the juice box station is where reputations go to die. Sticky hands, crying toddlers, no glory. The meeting moves on to field day, which appears to be less about children having fun and more about which parent gets to wear the coveted volunteer coordinator lanyard. The competition is fierce, smiles stretch tight, voices soften dangerously. Someone brings up the idea of colour-coordinated team shirts, and you swear you feel tension crackle like static electricity. Suggestions pile up like weapons. We should have a water balloon relay. We did that in 54. It was chaos. Chaos builds character. Character builds lawsuits. A vote is taken. Every hand rises, but not at the same speed. Speed matters. An enthusiastic volunteer is debates themes. Garden party. Old debates themes. Garden party. Old Hollywood. Stars and stripes forever. Each theme carries political undertones you don't fully understand but nod along to anyway. When the meeting adjourns, people mingle with warm expressions, but the conversations feel oddly coded. "Oh, you're bringing deviled eggs? How bold. You signed up for decorations? Impressive. I noticed you didn't comment on the balloon budget. Interesting. You walk home under the soft suburban streetlights trying to debrief your brain. You came here for school updates. You left having witnessed a subtle war fought with cupcakes, committees, and carefully measured enthusiasm. And you realise something crucial. In 1950s suburbia, the PTA isn't a parent-teacher association. It's a parent-tactical association. And you've just joined the front lines. Everyone is nice. Aggressively nice. So nice it feels dangerous. No one ever directly criticises you. They just say things like, "Oh, how interesting that you chose that shade of paint," which means they absolutely hate it and have already told 3 other neighbours. You step outside with your morning coffee, and before you even reach the edge of your driveway, you're hit with your first volley. Mrs. Donnelly waving cheerfully from across the street, her smile so wide it borders on athletic achievement. "Good morning," she calls out, voice lilting like a perfect radio commercial. You smile back, of course. Anything less than a smile bordering on toothy enthusiasm risks being interpreted as you harbouring a secret grievance. And in this neighbourhood, grievances are radioactive materials, handled delicately, stored carefully, and discussed only during bridge night. Let's talk about how politeness works here. It's not kindness. No, kindness is warm, genuine, human. Politeness in 1950s suburbia is a weaponized art form, a velvet-gloved duel fought with tone, posture, and compliments that feel like they were dipped in acid before delivery. Take, for instance, the classic phrase, "Oh, I never would have thought to plant petunias there." This means your gardening is wrong. Your life choices are questionable. Expect to hear about this for the next 10 years. If someone says, "Your new curtains are so bold," they mean they hate your curtains, they fear your curtains. Your curtains have personally offended democracy. You sip your coffee as Mr. Henderson approaches on his morning walk. His hands are behind his back, gentle, grandfatherly, deceptive. "Beautiful weather," he says. "This is code 4. I see you haven't edged your driveway yet." You respond, "Sure is." Which means, "I know. Stop judging me." He smiles serenely. Duel complete. The politeness arms race escalates during neighbourhood events. At the block barbecue, you watch 2 women locked in a compliment standoff over potato salad. "Oh, yours is just lovely," says one. "No, yours is." "Oh, please. Mine is just something simple I threw together." "Oh, but simple is the new sophisticated." "Oh, but sophistication can be overrated." If you listen closely, you can hear the subtext crackling beneath the surface like a Cold War of mayonnaise. Meanwhile, the men engage in their own brand of cheerful combat, grilling side by side, flipping burgers with competitive serenity, comparing lawnmower horsepower through gentle knowing nods. Even children participate. Little Sally Henderson hands your child a drawing and says, "I made this for you because I like sharing." But Sally's eyes say, "My crayons are better. Tell your mother." But the real battleground is compliments. Polite compliments rule the neighbourhood, each one crafted with surgical precision. "Your house looks so cosy," someone says. Translation, "Too small. That's such a creative outfit." Translation, "Chaotic. You look refreshed today." Translation, "You looked terrible yesterday." The goal is to never sound anything but pleasant, sweet, supportive, angelic, while quietly delivering social commentary sharp enough to slice through freshly baked pie. Even disagreements are polite. "Are you sure you want to use that ladder? It looks vintage." "I just worry," someone says, after implying your entire home could collapse. "Oh, you go ahead," they say, when they absolutely mean "don't you dare." You spend your days navigating this minefield of gentle hostility, smiling so consistently your cheeks have developed endurance muscles. Sometimes you lie awake at night wondering if you accidentally offended someone by waving too enthusiastically or not enthusiastically enough. But the true apex of the politeness arms race is the thank you note. Every interaction requires one. Attend a dinner, send a note, borrow a tool, send a note, exchange a friendly glance across the hedges. Better send a note just in case. These notes are written in flawless cursive, each line dripping with performative gratitude and socially strategic charm. They are masterpieces of suburban diplomacy. Thank you so much for the lovely evening you write. Translation. Your roast was dry, but I choose peace. When you place it in their mailbox, you feel the subtle relief of someone who has survived another round of the great suburban niceness war. Because in 1950s suburbia, politeness isn't optional. Politeness is survival. Politeness is status. Politeness is the quiet, smiling battlefield where everyone fights to be the nicest person on the block while secretly judging your paint colour. Morning arrives like clockwork. He leaves with a briefcase. She waves from the doorway. This isn't just routine, it's choreography. The roles are defined, rehearsed, expected. Deviate slightly, and the neighbourhood radar activates. Why is he home at noon? Why isn't she smiling? The sunlight is barely up when the ritual begins. He straightens his tie with the practiced efficiency of someone who knows the world is watching. She smooths her dress, always pressed, always fitted, always signalling the same message. Everything here is fine. Everything here is stable. Together they step into their marks on the great suburban stage. He picks up his briefcase, an object that seems heavier with expectation than paperwork. She opens the door for him. He steps onto the walkway, posture perfect, strides, confident. She remains framed in the doorway, smiling warmly, like a living portrait of domestic grace. For one full moment, the neighbourhood sees them exactly as it needs to. Harmonious, proper, predictable. Then he drives away. She closes the door, and the real performance begins. Let's talk about these roles. His role, the provider. He wakes early, eats a prepared breakfast, and heads out into the mysterious professional world. An office job nobody quite understands but everyone fully respects. He must look purposeful at all times. A man lingering in his own driveway is alarming. A man home early is gossip. A man home all day is a 5-alarm social emergency. If he ever skips the tie, someone will notice. If he ever calls in sick, someone will notice. If he waters the lawn on a weekday morning. The Henderson blinds start twitching immediately. His job is not just employment, it is reassurance. A full-time display of masculinity encoded into the rhythm of the block. Her role, the homemaker. The moment the door clicks shut, she springs into action like a backstage technician, scrambling to maintain a flawless theatrical illusion. Beds are made quickly and perfectly. Dishes disappear. Laundry cycles with clockwork precision. If she hangs clothes outside, she arranges them in a pattern. Large pieces on the inside, smaller ones on the outside, because God forbid someone sees the wrong item flapping in the breeze. Her dress remains pristine. Even scrubbing floors requires a level of elegance bordering on ceremonial. Hair done, lipstick on, shoes tidy. A housewife who looks tired signals instability. One who looks too glamorous signals vanity. She's expected to live precisely at the midpoint, glowing but not glowing too much. She also must smile all the time. A smile is suburban currency. A smile says, I am fulfilled. A smile says, my domestic kingdom is thriving. A smile says, no, I definitely did not cry into the dishwater at 11 a.m. The absence of a smile. Well, that becomes a neighbourhood scavenger hunt for theories. The gender roles extend into every corner of their lives. If he cooks dinner, people whisper, oh, he's helping. Is everything all right? If she sits down with the mail before he does, my, she's taking charge, isn't she? If he takes the kids to school, did he lose his job? If she wears pants, actual pants, Outside the home, you will hear the collective gasp from 3 streets away. Children even internalize the script. Boys mow lawns. Girls set tables. Boys get toy toolkits. Girls get toy kitchens. No one asks questions. They simply reenact the world around them like performers learning lines. And you? You navigate all this quietly, carefully, like walking a tightrope between admiration and suspicion. The pressure isn't shouted, it's whispered. Passed along through compliments that sound supportive but feel like warnings. Oh, I just love how traditional your household is. Translation. Don't you dare change anything. It must be so nice having a husband who works so hard. Translation. Don't let him be home too often. She keeps such a lovely home. Translation. If she ever stops, we'll notice. But beneath the layers of expectation lies something deeply human. Fear. Fear of standing out. Fear of judgment. Fear of failing at roles neither person asked for but both feel obligated to perform. And so the routine continues. Every morning, briefcase, wave, smile. Every evening, dinner, small talk, practiced gratitude. Every day, a ballet of gender expectations so ingrained they feel like gravity, ever present, invisible, unquestioned. Because in 1950s suburbia, you don't just live your life, you perform it. And the audience is always watching. Your child rides their bike slightly too fast. Mrs. Patterson notices. In 1950s suburbia, your children are public property. Their behaviour is a mirror of your parenting. A scraped knee is fine. A loud opinion. That might require a quiet conversation behind drawn beige curtains. You watch as your child zooms down the sidewalk, the streamers on their handlebars whipping in the breeze. To you, it looks like carefree joy, summer, youth, innocence. But to the neighbourhood, it's a performance review, a public exam, a subtle but high-stakes demonstration of whether your household is operating under approved suburban standards. Because in the 1950s, children aren't just children, they're evidence. Little, wobbly, grass-stained evidence. Mrs. Patterson narrows her eyes slightly, the way she does when evaluating someone's fruitcake at the holiday exchange. She clutches her gardening shears, poised like she's ready to prune both roses and reputations. Your child hits a small bump and the bike wobbles. You hold your breath. If they fall, that's fine, bravery builds character. If they cry too loudly, however, the entire block will be discussing emotional regulation concerns before dinner time. Let's talk about the rules. Children must be clean, but not so clean they seem pampered. Polite, but not so formal they seem robotic. Independent enough to signal good parenting, but not so independent that they appear wild or permissively raised. It's a delicate calibration, like tuning a radio in a thunderstorm. If your child says please and thank you, you receive social credit. If your child interrupts an adult, even once, you lose points. If they share toys, you're raising a model citizen. If they hoard toys, you're raising a cautionary tale. And if they express an opinion about anything, politics, dinner, the taste of milk, the concept of bedtime, that is a whole different category of suburban panic. Children must be agreeable, cheerful, well-behaved ambassadors of your living room decor and personal virtues. You call your child back gently, using the approved parental tone, firm, warm, and public-friendly. Your child slows, circles back, cheeks flushed with freedom. You give them a smile that says, "Good job," and also, "Please don't ruin my standing with the Pattersons." They drop the bike and run inside to get a snack, leaving it sprawled across the sidewalk. Oh no! An abandoned bike is a symbol. It suggests lax discipline. It suggests chaos. It suggests you aren't on top of things. Within minutes, someone will notice. You dash over and stand the bike upright, casually, as if you always intended to admire the hydrangeas from this angle. Crisis averted. Lacking stimulation? Someone will worry, lacking stimulation. Someone will worry, someone will gossip, someone will offer you a pamphlet about enriching home activities, thinly disguised as judgment. And woe be unto the parent whose child refuses to eat their vegetables at a dinner party. You will hear whispers for weeks, "My some children are spirited." Translation: control your offspring. Your spouse joins you on the porch handing you an iced tea. Together you watch your child hop from stepping stone to stepping stone, their imagination turning the walkway into an adventure. It's sweet, it's wholesome, it's risky. Because childhood creativity is lovely as long as it isn't too creative. If your child starts painting rocks, fine. Painting the sidewalk, questionable. Painting the dog, prepare for a neighbourhood-wide intervention. You remember last summer when little Tommy Henderson refused to come inside for bath time? His voice echoed down the block in shrieks of protest. By the next morning, 3 mothers had casually asked his parents how he was doing, using that gentle tone usually reserved for funerals and surprise divorces. Tommy was grounded for 2 weeks. His parents were socially grounded for 2 months. As the sun dips lower, your child waves at Mrs. Patterson. Big, earnest, genuine. Mrs. Patterson finally softens, giving a polite smile and a nod of approval. You relax slightly. Because that nod, that single tiny movement, it means you're raising your child correctly, or at least correctly enough for this neighbourhood, where childhood is less about growing up and more about maintaining an image. You call your child inside for dinner. They run to you, carefree, happy, unaware of the suburban politics swirling around their every hop, skip and jump. You take their hand and lead them toward the warm glow of your home, thinking, in any other era, raising a child means nurturing a little human. Here it also means passing a daily inspection. And in 1950s suburbia, every child is a report card with grass stains. A new family moves in. Their accent is unfamiliar. Their food smells different. Their curtains are not beige. The block buzzes with curiosity disguised as concern. Suburbia welcomes you warmly as long as you gently sand down your edges. You stand at your window, watching the moving truck rumble to a halt. Boxes spill out like secrets, each one carrying a potential disruption to the neighbourhood's comfortable sameness. The Hendersons are already outside, feigning a casual stroll that just so happens to take them past the new family's driveway. Mrs. Donnelly pretends to weed her flower bed, but is absolutely eavesdropping with the intensity of a spy-catching wind of coded transmissions. Are a little too colourful. Their voices are a little too colourful. Their voices have a lyrical lilt unfamiliar to local ears, and worst of all, their curtains, hastily hung, are patterned in something bold and cheerful. Not beige, not cream, patterned, reckless. Let's talk about the rules of suburban acclimation. Here everyone insists they're open-minded, welcoming, inclusive. They say things like, "Oh, how wonderful to have new neighbours." But their smiles tighten just slightly, betraying a mental checklist being updated on the spot. Where are they from? What do they believe? Do they mow their lawn diagonally or straight? Will their children behave according to the neighbourhood handbook everyone pretends doesn't exist? You bring over a casserole, the classic diplomatic gesture, a neutral offering, a symbol of peace. We'll accept you, but please do not surprise us. We are watching. We are evaluating. We will accept you, but please do not surprise us too much. The new family welcomes you enthusiastically. Their living room smells like spices you can't name. Their furniture is arranged creatively, not in the traditional formation mandated by How to Decorate a Proper Home, 1954 edition. Their son hands you a handmade paper bird. It's charming, it's sweet, it's also a harbinger. Kids with imagination make neighbours nervous. You leave the casserole and the polite conversation, returning home to find that the neighbourhood's communication network has activated. Some call it gossip. They call it concerned discussion. I hear they're not from round here. I noticed their car foreign, isn't it? Did you see those curtains? Very expressive. Oh, I'm sure they're lovely people, just different. Different is the key word. A gentle, smiling warning flag. The next day, as the new family plants flowers, several neighbours just happen to pass by, offering advice that sounds helpful but is deeply territorial. Oh, those plants don't usually do well here. Translation: your exotic flora threatens our aesthetic. You might want to check your mailbox sizing, we all use the standard one. Translation: conform, please. Your daughter is adorable. Does she always dress so creatively? Translation: beige is right there. You wave to the newcomers from your lawn, giving them the exact friendly but not too friendly greeting required. They wave back warmly. Too warmly. This will cause discussion. But then something happens. Their daughter laughs while playing hopscotch. It's a loud, joyful laugh. A real one. It echoes down the street, cutting through the monotone hum of polite sameness. Some neighbours stiffen at the volume, others glance around nervously as if joy itself is an unregulated activity, and yet a few children join her. A small rebellion. The next morning you notice their curtains again. Sunlight glows through the colourful fabric, casting warm shapes onto their living room walls. It's different. It's unfamiliar. It's beautiful. A few neighbours grumble, but others linger, staring just a moment longer. Because while sameness is safe, difference is interesting. Suddenly, the Jones boy brings over a baseball. Mrs. Henderson asks about the recipe for their delicious-smelling stew. Mr. Hollinger offers help fixing a fence. The neighbourhood, tense but curious, begins inching toward acceptance, slowly, carefully, conditionally. Because in 1950s suburbia, newcomers must learn the choreography, but sometimes they teach a few new steps too. You realise something as you watch the block adjust, shift, stretch around this family. Suspicion may be the first reaction, but it isn't always the final one. Even here, beneath the beige curtains and careful routines, people can surprise you. And sometimes the neighbourhood becomes just a little brighter because someone dared to be different. There's no formal organisation, no badges. But everyone knows who came home late, who argued loudly, who skipped church. The blinds twitch like nervous eyelids. Information flows faster than milk delivery. You step outside to retrieve the morning paper, and before your foot even hits the walkway, you feel it. The subtle prickle of being observed. Not overtly, not in a call the police sort of way. No, this is something far more delicate and far more powerful. The suburban gaze, silent, constant, highly trained. Across the street a curtain moves an inch. Not enough to be suspicious, just enough to confirm that Mrs. Patterson has clocked your presence. She is the unofficial archivist of the block. If you sneeze twice in a row, she writes it down somewhere. This is how the neighbourhood watch operates. No one ever holds a meeting. No flyers are handed out. But somehow everyone knows the rules, the roles, and the reporting structure. It's less security system and more social nervous system. A network of housewives, retirees, and strategically stationed living room chairs, all working in perfect, twitchy harmony. Let's talk about the hierarchy. At the top sits the window elders, those who spend the majority of the day near their front windows, armed with knitting needles or newspapers, but fully committed to surveillance. They know everyone's schedule, who leaves for work at 7, who forgets trash day, who waters the lawn too aggressively. Then there are the porch sentinels, neighbours who just happen to sit outside in the afternoons, sipping lemonade or shelling peas. Their real job is gathering updates. Every wave, every comment, every passing stroller is an opportunity to refine the day's intel. And finally, the roaming scouts, children. Children who hear things adults don't. Children who repeat these things at dinner, often loudly, creating a cross-generational intelligence pipeline. Together, they form a communication network more efficient than any official office memo system in America. You learn the system quickly, usually through trial, error, and mild embarrassment. Take last Tuesday. You arrived home 10 minutes later than usual. 10 minutes. By dawn the next day, 3 neighbours had casually mentioned the traffic on your side of town, each one wearing a smile loud enough to say, "We noticed, we always notice," or the time you forgot to bring in the milk before noon. That single bottle sitting on your doorstep triggered a chain reaction. Are they out of town? No, I saw movement. Maybe they're sick. Oh dear, should we send something? By the time you retrieved the milk, the block had written you into a fictional drama involving fever, job loss, and possibly a marriage crisis. In this neighbourhood, silence is suspicious. Too quiet means something is wrong. Too loud means something is very wrong. Ideally, your household should emit just enough sound to confirm life, but not enough to raise questions, and bless your soul if you argue with your spouse within earshot of an open window. The Hendersons once had a minor disagreement about dinner rolls. Dinner rolls. The next day, someone left them a pamphlet about healthy communication. They never argued again, not out loud. But the true peak of neighbourhood intelligence gathering comes after dark. Some people think suburban nights are peaceful. They are misinformed. Once lights dim, the watch intensifies. A single car pulling into a driveway late can launch a full-scale investigation the next morning. Did you see what time the Donnellys got home? 11:42. 11:42 on a Wednesday. Teenagers. Or trouble. Someone always knows the exact time. Even church attendance becomes a data point. If you miss one Sunday, it's concern. 2 Sundays. Speculation. 3 Sundays. People start bringing casseroles and asking gentle questions about your spiritual well-being. All of this, of course, is wrapped in a blanket of politeness so thick you could smother a roast with it. No one admits they're watching. They simply phrase observations as questions. I just happened to notice you weren't at choir rehearsal. I couldn't help but hear a noise from your yard. Your lights were on late, burning the midnight oil. Every conversation is a polite interrogation. But here's the strange part. As much as it feels like pressure, it's also a kind of protection. If your dog gets loose, 3 people will chase it. If your car won't start, someone reappears with jumper cables. If you look sad for more than one afternoon, someone will arrive with pie. Not comfort pie, investigative pie. Because in 1950s suburbia, the neighbourhood watch isn't really about crime. It's about cohesion, about ensuring the delicate social ecosystem remains intact, about making sure everyone stays in line and somehow also stays cared for. It is surveillance with a smile, safety with a side of scrutiny, community stitched together with curiosity and casseroles, and whether you like it or not, you're part of it. Sunday morning arrives, you go to church, not necessarily for theology, for visibility. Attendance is proof of goodness. Absence sparks speculation. In suburbia, faith is private, but participation is very public. You wake up earlier than you'd like, already aware of the choreography ahead. The house must move with quiet, efficient reverence. Everyone dresses in their Sunday best, not too fancy, not too simple, just enough to demonstrate respectability. Your spouse irons a blouse, you polish shoes that weren't dirty to begin with. Your children are scrubbed so clean they might squeak. Church, in 1950s suburbia, is less a spiritual destination and more a weekly reputational audit. You step outside and the neighbourhood is alive with purpose. Car engines warming, families straightening collars, hymnals tucked under arms. Even the birds seem to chirp politely, as if they too don't want to be late for service. You pull out of the driveway slowly, not because you're cautious, but because you know people are watching. Leaving too quickly looks frantic. Too slowly looks lazy. There is a perfect speed for Sunday morning, and everyone knows it instinctively. The church parking lot is a runway of moral performance. Cars line up in tidy rows, engines hum gently, doors close softly. People exit vehicles with the serene composure of astronauts stepping onto the moon. Mrs. Henderson waves from across the lot, wearing her pastel hat shaped like an enthusiastic pastry. You wave back, adjusting your child's collar so it sits at an approved angle. Children must look angelic on Sundays. If they misbehave, God forgives, but the congregation does not. Let's talk about the stakes. Attendance is everything. Missing 1 week is forgivable. Illness, travel, car trouble. Missing 2 becomes interesting. Missing 3 transforms your household into a case study. Oh, we haven't seen them lately. I hope everything's all right. You don't think they're drifting, do you? Drifting is the polite suburban term for spiritual crisis, marital conflict, secret vice, or, worst of all, disinterest. Inside the sanctuary, you choose a pew strategically. The middle rows are safest. Sitting too far forward suggests you're trying to show off your holiness. Sitting too far back suggests you need distance from God, the pastor, or accountability. Middle pews say, we're stable, we're balanced, we're not hiding anything. The service begins. The organ swells. Hymns rise. You sing at a moderate volume, loud enough to be heard, quiet enough not to attract attention. Your spouse harmonizes sweetly. Your children fidget in ways that feel amplified by holy acoustics. You gently rein them in while keeping your smile saint-like. During the sermon, you nod occasionally. Nodding is important. It shows engagement. But too much nodding looks overeager, like you're trying to repent for something dramatic. Then comes the moment, the passing of the collection plate. This is suburban theatre at its finest. You reach for your envelope with casual grace. The amount inside is never discussed aloud, but silently analysed by how confidently you place it in the plate. A hesitant hand indicates guilt or stinginess. A swift motion suggests generosity or financial stability. If you forget your envelope altogether, prepare for an avalanche of concerned questions. After service, the social hour begins. Coffee, donuts. Small talk sharpened into subtle evaluation. Lovely to see you again. Translation. We noticed you missed last week. Your children were so well behaved today. Translation. We were watching them like hawks. Are you coming to the Wednesday supper? Translation. We expect you to come to the Wednesday supper. People mingle in little circles, moving like planets orbiting an invisible sun of propriety. Conversations drift from weather to scripture to casseroles to, inevitably, who wasn't in attendance. You stand there smiling, nodding, sipping lukewarm coffee, fully aware you're participating in a ritual older than the church itself, community verification. Because faith here isn't measured in belief. It's measured in presence. It's measured in showing up, week after week, hymn after hymn, handshake after handshake. Eventually you return home, loosen your tie, kick off your stiff shoes, and finally breathe. Not because the service is over, because the performance is. Your family sits down to a quiet Sunday lunch and you feel it. The strange relief of having secured another week of social insurance. Because in 1950s suburbia, going to church isn't just about salvation, it's about survival. The television glows with talk of communism. The world feels tense, and yet your greatest fear might be being labelled unusual. Patriotism is displayed in subtle ways. Flags, opinions, the right kind of enthusiasm. You love America. But you also love not being questioned. You sit on your sofa, a stiff, floral-patterned monument to middle-class decorum, watching grainy reporters warn about threats from places you didn't know existed. The music is dramatic, the maps are ominous, and the tone suggests that at any moment, communists might crawl out of the air vents and demand your station wagon. Your child wanders through the living room chasing the dog. Quiet, you whisper sharply. America is talking. Let's talk about patriotism, 1950s suburbia style. Patriotism lives in the decor. The miniature flag perched on your bookshelf must be dusted regularly. Your front porch flag must hang at the correct angle. Proud, crisp, but not boastful. Too big a flag and you're overcompensating. Too small a flag and you're hiding something. Patriotism lives in conversations too, but not loud ones, strategic ones. You must express love for America with the enthusiasm of a man describing his favourite casserole. Warm, certain, but never too dramatic. Overly dramatic patriotism is suspicious. Why are you shouting? What are you trying to prove? Your neighbour, Mr. Hollinger, shuffles over during a commercial break. He doesn't sit, no. Sitting implies intimacy. He stands at the edge of your carpet like he's testifying in court. You see the news? He asks. This is the opening move in the Cold War small talk ritual. I did, you reply, nodding sagely. Terrible stuff, he says. Glances at your bookshelf, checking for glances at your bookshelf, checking for subversive literature. You casually tilt your head so he can see that the titles include the Reader's Digest, the Farmer's Almanac, and the most patriotic book you own, Ben Franklin. The Man, the Myth, the Lightning Rod. Satisfied, he nods and leaves. Your spouse comes in with a bowl of popcorn. The timing is delicate. Serving snacks during Cold War updates must be done with solemn energy. Too cheerful a presentation suggests you're not taking the threat seriously. Too sombre suggests you secretly watch foreign films. You both return your gaze to the screen. A stern announcer warns of sleeper agents. You swallow. You know the odds of a Soviet spy moving into your cul-de-sac are astronomically low. And yet, at yesterday's bake sale, Mrs. Henderson whispered that the new family down the street uses strange spices. Nothing specific, just strange spices. The room buzzes with paranoia, soft suburban paranoia, wrapped in polite smiles and jello moulds. In your living room, the Cold War becomes less about nuclear threats and more about social survival. Not displaying the correct amount of concern is dangerous. Worry too little, and you seem naive. Worry too much, and you seem unstable. The safest position is moderately tense with a respectful frown. Your children imitate what they see. Your son salutes the TV every time a general appears. Your daughter recites the Pledge of Allegiance with the conviction of a small but ambitious senator. At school, they're taught how to hide under desks because apparently desks are bulletproof if you believe hard enough. And you live with a strange duality of the era. On the one hand, the world might end. On the other hand, you still need to remember to return Mrs. Donnelly's casserole dish. The television switches to a message about American values, smiling families, perfect lawns, a gentle reminder that true patriots buy US savings bonds. You nod along, not entirely sure if you agree, but entirely sure you don't want to disagree. Because disagreement is dangerous. Disagreement is suspicious. Disagreement leads to quiet conversations you'd rather not have. Finally, the broadcast ends. The room relaxes. You turn off the TV, and suddenly the world feels peaceful again. Your tidy living room, your planted geraniums, your child's abandoned toy car on the carpet. You stand up, stretch, and check your porch flag one more time, just in case. Because in 1950s suburbia, the Cold War doesn't just happen overseas. It happens right here, in your living room, in your conversations, in your careful choices. Where loving America is important but not being questioned is essential. You hear your name mentioned softly at the grocery store. Nothing concrete, just a tone. In suburbia, rumours never shout. They drift, Light, polite, devastating. You start replaying everything you said at last week's barbecue. You pretend to compare two brands of canned peaches, but your ears sharpen like a nervous deer's. There it is again, a gentle murmur, a soft laugh, the faint rustle of gossip blooming in aisle 3. Nobody ever says anything outright. Suburban rumours are like perfume, applied lightly, but strong enough to alter the entire atmosphere. The two women stand by the end cap of dish soap, speaking in that careful, airy tone that suggests nothing is wrong while implying absolutely everything is wrong. I heard well. I shouldn't say. Oh, of course not, but, well, let's just say they have interesting weekend habits. Interesting. The most dangerous word in the suburban glossary. Your stomach drops. Was it something about your lawn? Your casserole? Did someone overhear you joking that the PTA raffle was intense? Because in 1950s suburbia, calling a raffle intense might as well be calling the entire community structure into question. You shift slightly, trying to look casual as you select a peach can with exaggerated thoughtfulness. To them, this moment is nothing, light chatter between errands. But to you, it is a quiet descent into self-scrutiny. Let's talk about how the whisper network works. It begins innocently. Someone observes something small. Your curtain stayed closed too long one morning. You didn't wave back quickly enough. Your car wasn't in the driveway last Thursday. These details are collected, combined, embroidered with imagination, and eventually woven into narratives. Narratives whispered during grocery runs, PTA, bake sales, church coffee hours, backyard barbecues, casual dog walks, strategic porch sittings at dusk. The delivery method is always the same. Soft voice, gentle smile, head tilt. I'm sure it's nothing, but you didn't hear this from me, but they probably have a perfectly normal explanation for that. Every sentence ends with forgiveness. Every sentence begins with judgment. You push your cart forward, heart racing a little. Because in this place, reputation isn't built through grand gestures. It's built through microscopic behaviours interpreted by a committee of self-appointed analysts. You pass Mr. Hollinger near the produce section. He gives you a chipper. Well, hello there. His smile is bright. Too bright. You panic. Does he know something? Was your trash can placed an inch too far to the left this week? You replay last Sunday's barbecue. You remember mentioning the Joneses' big new television. Did you sound envious? Did you sound dismissive? Did someone misinterpret your tone? Tone is everything here. Tone is currency. Tone can destroy. You reach for a bag of potatoes, comforting, solid, judgment-free, and take a grounding breath. Then you hear it again. Your name. Louder this time. You whip your head around instinctively, only to realise the whisperers have migrated to the bakery section. They lean over the bread display like two pigeons sharing a particularly juicy crumb of intel. Do you know they didn't attend the Wednesday supper? Oh dear, I hope they're all right. This translates to, they will be investigated. The whisper network isn't malicious, not intentionally. It sees itself as concerned, helpful, protective, even when it's actually speculative, invasive, and lightly terrifying. In a community built on perfection, deviation becomes a puzzle to solve, and everyone becomes a detective with extremely flexible evidence standards. Still, the network has benefits. When Mrs. Donnelly's dog went missing, the whole block knew within an hour and mobilised like a rescue unit. When the Hendersons had a family emergency, casseroles appeared at their doorstep like edible sympathy soldiers. The whisper network gossips, but it also guards. Eventually you approach the checkout line. You smile politely at the cashier, who smiles back. You wonder if she's heard anything too. Impossible to know. Stepping out into the parking lot, the sunlight feels fresh. Calming. You load your groceries and pause, letting the breeze wash over you. Maybe the whispers were about someone else. Maybe you imagined it. Maybe things are fine. But then, from across the lot, someone waves at you. A tiny, too cheerful wave. The kind that says, I know something, or I'm pretending not to know something, or I think I know something, but I'm trying to see if you know I know. You wave back with equal, expertly neutral enthusiasm. Because in 1950s suburbia, silence is rare. But whispers are everywhere. Soft enough to deny, sharp enough to sting, strong enough to shape the entire neighbourhood. Magazines insist she must be cheerful, efficient, slim, organised, and mildly radiant at all times. The house must gleam. The children must behave. The roast must never burn. And if she's exhausted, she smiles anyway. Before she even opens her eyes, she knows the day ahead is an endurance test disguised as domestic bliss. Her alarm clock isn't a mechanical bell, it's the weight of expectation. A perfect housewife doesn't just run a household, she stages it, maintains it, curates it. As if the living room were a museum exhibit titled, Ideal American Womanhood, Please do not touch anything, especially her sanity. She rises before the sun, tying her robe neatly, never dragging it on the floor. Breakfast must appear on the table as if conjured by gentle magic, not mixed with caffeine-fueled panic. Pancakes, golden, bacon, crisp, eggs, fluffy, toast. Toasted, not burned. Burned toast is a symptom of deeper issues according to half the magazines she reads. Meanwhile, she must look fresh, not glamorous, that's suspicious. Not plain, that's concerning. Fresh. The soft focus kind of beauty seen in detergent ads. Must shine. A smudge on a window doesn't must shine. A smudge on a window doesn't just suggest dirt, it suggests emotional instability. A dusty shelf means neglect. A wrinkled curtain. An invitation for Mrs. Patterson to whisper, oh bless her heart, she must be overwhelmed. She vacuums in perfect parallel lines, like mowing a miniature indoor lawn. She dusts with swift practice strokes. When she scrubs the bathroom, she does so with the intensity of someone performing a sacred ritual to ward off social doom. Because guests will peek behind shower curtains. Everyone knows this. No one admits it. Her wardrobe is its own battlefield. A housewife must dress nicely at all times. Not for herself. No, that would be indulgent. But because anyone could drop by without warning. Neighbours treat front doors like they're swinging saloon doors. Someone stops in to borrow sugar. Someone else wants to ask about the bake sale. Someone else just happened to be walking by and needs to inspect the state of your foyer. She cannot greet them in pyjamas. Pyjamas in the afternoon are a cry for help. Instead, she wears dresses with cinched waists and precise collars. She accessorizes just enough. She keeps lipstick handy, applying it the way generals draw battle lines. Then there's the matter of her figure. Magazines promise miracles. Lose 5 pounds in 5 days. Your husband will appreciate the new you. Thin is tidy. Thin is disciplined. Thin is desirable. She does the exercises, bending, stretching, twisting, while the children chase each other and the roast slow cooks in the oven. She snacks on celery sticks she doesn't want while preparing brownies she won't eat. All while smiling. Always smiling. And let's talk about that smile. The smile is the most essential domestic tool she owns. More important than casserole dishes, more important than vacuum attachments. A housewife must smile through everything. Burnt dinner, spilled milk, sudden drop-in visitors, children having meltdowns, her own exhaustion, her own frustration, her own fear that she cannot keep up a tired housewife is sympathetic. A frustrated housewife is concerning. An openly unhappy housewife? Dangerous. It suggests the system itself has cracks. Her social life requires equal precision. When she attends bridge night, she performs subtly, laughing at the right jokes, offering gentle compliments, never revealing insecurity. When someone asks how she manages everything so well, she must answer, "Oh, it's nothing," even though she hasn't sat down in 7 hours. And the roast, always the roast, she checks it obsessively. A perfect roast is a symbol of domestic triumph. A dry roast is a signal flare. Someone will notice. Someone always notices. Even at night when she finally collapses into bed, her mind races. Did she forget something? Did she offend someone? Did her smile waver? Did her child misbehave? Did she over-season the potatoes? Because in 1950s suburbia, a woman's worth is measured in shine. Shiny floors, shiny silverware, shiny hair, shiny cheerfulness, especially when she doesn't feel it. But beneath her perfect exterior lies someone tired, brilliant, capable, complex. A woman performing the role society wrote for her, doing her best in a world where being ordinary is failure and being extraordinary is expected. And tomorrow she will rise before the sun again, and she will smile. He boards the train each morning with dozens of identical grey suits. The commuter's ritual purification. He leaves suburbia's judgment to enter corporate hierarchy, then returns home to mow, repair and maintain the illusion of effortlessness. The platform is always the same. A stretch of concrete washed in the pale glow of early morning, lined with men who look exactly like him. Grey suits, neutral ties, polished shoes, briefcases packed with paperwork and ambition. They stand shoulder to shoulder without speaking, performing the sacred suburban pre-work meditation known as quiet staring. The train screeches to a stop, doors opening with a shuddering sigh, and he steps aboard with the rest of the uniformed hopefuls. This isn't just transportation, this is transformation, a daily molting. The man who boards the train is a suburban unit. The man who exits downtown is a corporate soldier. He finds his usual seat, third car, left side, 2 seats from the back, and settles in. The train rocks gently as neighbourhoods give way to city blocks. Outside, the scenery shifts from lawns and mailboxes to brick buildings and advertising signs, promising cigarettes, kitchen appliances, and a thrilling future powered by optimism and vague chemical compounds. Inside the car, no one reads anything fun. Newspapers? Yes. Reports? Yes. Something called the Economic Outlook Quarterly? Definitely yes. Anything resembling a novel? Suspicious. Fiction suggests imagination, and imagination suggests deviation, and deviation leads directly to performance reviews. Let's talk about the persona. On the train, he becomes a slightly different version of himself. Serious, busy, purposeful. He folds his newspaper crisply, nodding at articles like he's solving national crises. His posture says, "I understand the economy," and his expression says, "I know what the Dow Jones is, and I can explain it if pressed." He cannot, but neither can most of his peers, which makes this performance mutually upheld. At the office, he enters a world where the hierarchy is even stricter than in suburbia. Bosses are to be pleased, deadlines are to be met, coffee is to be consumed in heroic quantities. He navigates cubicles and conference rooms with the diligence of a man who has never once questioned whether this is what he wants. Because questioning leads to instability, and instability is a luxury no suburban commuter can afford. He sits at his desk, tapping away at a typewriter, filling forms, crunching numbers, approving memos. His work is neither thrilling nor terrible. It just exists the way winter exists or casseroles exist. A condition of life. He eats lunch with colleagues who discuss weather patterns and automobile models with the gravity of philosophers. He laughs at jokes he doesn't understand. He nods when nodding is required. He never eats alone. Eating alone is suspicious. Then, at 5 o'clock sharp, the clock strikes liberation. He boards the train home, decompressing not with joy, but with the quiet resignation of a man returning to Act 2 of the daily suburban play. The train rocks him back into domestic consciousness. Grey suits become lawn-mowing uniforms. Briefcases morph into toolboxes in his mind. By the time the train returns him to a station, he is ready to be husband, father, homeowner, neighbour, all roles he must execute flawlessly before repeating everything tomorrow. He steps off the platform and walks to his car, a modest model, appropriately maintained. He drives home through winding, identical streets, past neighbours who wave mechanically. He waves back, also mechanically, because that is what good men do. And as soon as he pulls into the driveway, he transitions instantly. Tie loosened, jacket off, sleeves rolled. He heads straight for the lawnmower, the toolbox, the garage project. The house needs upkeep, the yard needs taming, something always needs fixing. He moves with steady responsibility, as if greasing the wheels of suburban stability is his sacred calling. Inside, dinner simmers, children chatter. His spouse asks about his day in the gentle, practiced tone of domestic ritual. He answers with the equal ritual, busy, but fine. He never reveals he is tired, that he feels small at the office, that the train ride makes him feel like one of many, and the neighbourhood makes him feel like one of few, and somehow both sensations overwhelm him. He eats, he smiles, he helps tuck the kids into bed. He stands on the porch for a moment, gazing at the quiet street, wondering if the Joneses' new car is nicer than he admitted. Then he sleeps, because tomorrow morning, before the sun fully rises, he will board the train again, one grey suit among dozens, performing the commuter identity with unwavering precision. And in 1950s suburbia, that performance is survival. You fire up the grill, burgers sizzle, laughter floats gently. But beneath the smoke lies evaluation. Who grills best? Who hosts best? Who owns the most advanced tongs? This is diplomacy disguised as leisure. The backyard barbecue is the suburban peace summit, a gathering where aprons become uniforms, charcoal becomes political capital, and condiments are deployed with strategic precision. On the surface, it's casual. Neighbours mingling with paper plates, kids chasing each other through sprinklers, someone's radio humming out cheerful tunes. But behind every cheerful, "How have you been?" is an appraisal of your lawn, your patio, your grill skills, your hosting charisma, and whether your mustard is name brand or scandalously generic. You stand proudly behind the grill, wielding your spatula like a benevolent dictator. This is your territory. The flames crackle, the smoke rises, eyes are watching. Let's talk about the grill. In 1950s suburbia, the grill is a masculine altar. Charcoal or gas is not just a preference. It is a statement of ideology. Your grill must be clean, functional, and preferably newer than Mr. Donnelly's, but older than the Joneses. Too new and you seem flashy. Too old and you seem negligent. You flip a burger with calm confidence, making sure the flip is visible to your audience. "Nice technique," Mr. Henderson remarks. "This is high praise. This is diplomacy." Your spouse arranges the side dishes on the picnic table. Potato salad, baked beans, coleslaw, all placed in visually pleasing order. Guests approach cautiously, their smiles bright but minds calculating. Homemade dishes earn points. Store-bought dishes are forgiven only if cleverly camouflaged in your own serving bowls. Children swarm the yard, but their behaviour is your responsibility. If one shrieks too loudly or spills lemonade in a dramatic fashion, you feel the neighbourhood's collective eyebrow rise. But today, mercifully, they seem angelic, letting you focus fully on the grill, your stage, your battlefield. The guests circulate like diplomats at a reception. Mr. Hollinger inspects your grill tongs. They're sturdy, stainless steel, maybe a bit older than ideal, but still respectable. He nods, impressed. You feel validated. Meanwhile, you notice the Joneses have brought their own tong set in a leather carrying case. Show-offs. Everyone pretends not to notice. Everyone absolutely notices. The conversation flows. Someone mentions weather patterns. Someone else mentions lawn care innovations. These are safe topics, neutral ground. But then someone says, "That's quite the setup you've got here." You freeze for half a second, then smile. That sentence could mean anything. Your patio furniture is stylish. Your patio furniture is outdated. Your patio furniture is surprisingly middle class. Your patio furniture suggests ambition. Tone is everything. You decide it was meant as a compliment. You offer hot dogs as an olive branch. The burgers reach completion. They must be neither undercooked nor overdone. Overcooking signals incompetence. Undercooking signals recklessness. You serve them one by one, watching closely as people take their first bite. Tiny expressions of approval or concern flickering across their faces. Mrs. Donnelly takes a bite, pauses, and nods slowly. "It's just delicious," she says. This sentence is your victory parade. You allow yourself a modest grin. The sun begins to set. Fireflies drift across the yard. Neighbours relax into lawn chairs, metal ones with colourful vinyl webbing that stick to your skin. Someone tells a joke. Someone else tells a story about their station wagon. It feels light, warm, effortless. But you know the truth. This is the final stage of barbecue diplomacy, the debriefing period. Guests summarise your hosting performance internally, assigning grades and categories that nobody discusses aloud. Grill score, table layout, score, condiment, availability score, seating, comfort score, child behaviour, bonus multiplier. When they stand to leave, thank yous exchanged, dishes gathered, leftovers wrapped, you feel the quiet closing of negotiations. As they walk down your driveway, they'll whisper to each other, "Lovely gathering, so well done. Did you see the grill? Marvellous burgers, a bit much with the relish." You wave from your porch, heart finally slowing. The grill cools, the lights dim, your yard smells like smoke, summer, and mild triumph. Because tonight, in the delicate dance of suburban diplomacy, you have succeeded. You grilled, you hosted, you impressed, without bragging, without failing, and without burning a single bun. And in 1950s suburbia, that is the highest form of peacekeeping known to man. One missed payment, one job loss, one visible crack in the facade. The entire structure feels fragile. Suburbia is comfortable, but it is also conditional. Stability must be constantly maintained, polished like chrome. You stand in your living room, staring at a tiny crack in the plaster above the doorway. It's barely visible, honestly, a hairline, but your heart stumbles. Because in 1950s suburbia, small cracks are never just small cracks. They are symbols, warnings, tiny prophets whispering that maybe, just maybe, something in your carefully maintained world is starting to slip. You run a fingertip for the plaster. It feels harmless. But you know better. If Mrs. Henderson spots it during next week's bridge night, she'll note it in her mental ledger of household concerns. If the Donnellys catch a glimpse, they'll wonder why you haven't repaired it yet. And if the Joneses see it, they'll casually mention the importance of preventative maintenance, which is polite speak for, "We noticed your life is unravelling." Let's talk about this fear. On the outside, suburbia is pristine. Tidy lawns, polished station wagons, freshly washed windows, houses in approved shades of cream and pale blue. But beneath the glossy surface lies a constant anxiety, an unspoken terror of falling behind. Not just financially, but socially, aesthetically, morally. Falling behind is the suburban equivalent of falling from grace. A letter arrives in the mail, your utility bill. You open it carefully, as if expecting bad news. It's normal, but the mere possibility rattles you, because one unexpectedly high bill could lead to tightening the budget. Tightening the budget could lead to skipping a home improvement project. Skipping a home improvement project could lead to visible decline. Visible decline is death. This fear follows you everywhere when you look at your aging appliances, when you glance at your neighbour's brand new car, when you see the Joneses adding a second bathroom, which means now everyone will need a second bathroom just to keep up. You're constantly taking mental inventory. The porch light is flickering. The lawn is growing too quickly. The fence paint is chipping. Your suit looks a little shiny from wear. Your spouse's mixer is getting old. Your child's bike doesn't quite gleam like it used to. Every flaw, every fray, every faded surface feels like a threat to your standing. Because suburbia thrives on the illusion of effortlessness, of clean lines, cheerful families, perfect lawns, and smooth financial tides. But the truth is far more fragile. You go to work each day knowing a single misstep could shake the whole structure. A stern look from your boss, a rumour about layoffs, a bad review. Any of these could spark the chain reaction that ends in financial instability, and financial instability is the suburban boogeyman. Imagine missing a mortgage payment. Imagine the whispers. Imagine the casserole deliveries of concern. Imagine the PTA suddenly treating you with that tone reserved for people who aren't doing well right now. Even your leisure time is touched by this fear. At the barbecue, you admire Mr. Hollinger's gleaming patio furniture and wonder how he afforded it. At the PTA meeting, you notice Mrs. Donnelly's new dress and wonder if you should be buying new clothes too. At church, you see the Jones family donating visibly, generously, publicly, and you feel that little knot in your stomach tighten. Falling behind isn't just economic. It's symbolic. It means losing status. It means losing privacy. It means losing control of your narrative. And in suburbia, narrative is everything. Sometimes, late at night, after the children are asleep and the dishes are washed, you sit quietly in the living room and let the fear settle around you like dust. Not paralyzing fear, just a soft, persistent hum. A reminder that you must keep polishing, keep maintaining, keep showing up, keep smiling. That perfection is expected, that decline is unacceptable, that the margin for error is thin. And yet you also know something else. Everyone feels this way. Behind every perfect lawn is someone afraid of weeds. Behind every tidy living room is someone terrified of mess. Behind every cheerful greeting is someone hoping they aren't falling behind. You take a deep breath, stand up, and decide to patch the crack tomorrow. Not because it's serious, but because you care, because you're trying, because you want your life to hold its shape, its shine, its careful balance. Stability here isn't a given, it's a performance, one you must practice every day, one you master only by pretending you've mastered it already. No one talks about stress, or loneliness, or the quiet pressure of performing normalcy every day. Smiles stay fixed, problems stay indoors. You're fine, everyone is fine. The lawn is proof of that. You wake up each morning and slip into the day like pulling on a costume, pressed clothes, polite expressions, steady composure. The sun rises, toast browns, coffee brews, and with every small ritual you press down the little ache inside your ribs. Because in 1950 suburbia, discomfort is permitted only in private, preferably behind a closed door, and ideally while also doing something productive, like folding laundry. The neighbourhood hums with an enforced emotional brightness. People greet each other with cheerful waves that are almost gladiatorial in their intensity. Beautiful day, they say, even when it isn't. Can't complain, They add, even though they very much could, complaining is dangerous. Complaining suggests cracks. Cracks spread. Cracks get noticed. And nothing terrifies this place more than being noticed for the wrong reasons. Let's talk about the pressure. Every household silently competes in the Olympics of appearing fine. Everything looks fine. Then everything looks fine. Then everything must be fine. You host dinner parties with a serene smile even though you barely slept. You sit through PTA meetings with impeccable posture even though your stomach feels like it's filled with static. You mow the lawn not because it needs mowing, but because the act itself reassures everyone, including yourself, that you are still functioning at the expected suburban wavelength. And if you falter, well, you don't, because no one is allowed to falter. Take the Hendersons, who haven't been themselves lately. You've noticed the slightly forced laughter, the curtain drawn at odd hours, the lawn mowed less frequently. But when you bring over a pie just to say hello, Mrs. Henderson beams, thanking you warmly, insisting everything is wonderful. Forbid addressing it. In suburbia, you forbid addressing it. In suburbia, you don't name discomfort. You don't acknowledge strain. You don't say, I'm overwhelmed, or I'm lonely, or this all feels like a lot. Instead, you make another pot roast. You attend another church service. You repaint the porch. The cycle continues. Inside your own home, you feel the pressure too. The quiet hum of expectation that never truly shuts off. Some nights you lie awake staring at the ceiling, feeling as if the walls themselves demand that you maintain the image. Stable, responsible, unshakable. Even within the family, emotional expression is rationed. Your spouse carries their own invisible weight, tidying rooms, smoothing curtains, hiding exhaustion behind bright lipstick and well-practiced smiles. They might say, I'm fine, 3 times a day, each one more brittle than the last. You want to ask, are you really? But you don't, because asking might open a door neither of you are allowed to walk through. Your children absorb the silence too. They scrape knees, bite tongues, wipe tears quickly, expecting resilience rather than comfort. They learn early that sadness is something you deal with alone, preferably without wrinkling your good clothes. And yet, there's a strange, shared beauty hidden in all this restraint. Everyone is lonely together. Everyone is stressed together. Everyone is keeping themselves upright, not just out of pride, but out of love, because maintaining normalcy is how you protect each other from judgment, from shame, from the possibility that someone might think your family is struggling, which of course you are. Everyone is. Sometimes, in the quiet of the evening when the dishes are done and the children are asleep and the house finally releases its grip on your nerves, you allow yourself a small exhale. A moment where you admit silently to the room, this is hard. Life is beautiful. Yes, but also heavy. You love your family, your home, your routines, but some days it feels like you're carrying an entire era's expectations on your shoulders, and you are, but so is everyone else. Tomorrow morning, you'll step outside with that same practice smile. Your lawn will be neat, your clothes will be pressed, your voice will be steady. The silence will settle again, as familiar as the hum of your refrigerator. Because in 1950s suburbia, mental strain isn't discussed. It's managed, quietly, politely, perfectly, at least on the outside. Your teenager listens to music slightly too loud, wears something slightly rebellious. The neighbourhood collectively inhales. Is this the beginning of social unravelling? Or just hormones? Either way, Carol is watching. You stand in the hallway, listening to the muffled thump of a drumbeat leaking from your teenager's bedroom, some newfangled tune that sounds like electricity trying to escape a tin can. You knock gently. No answer. You knock again. Still nothing. Finally the door cracks open, revealing your child in an outfit that screams, I am forming an identity, which in 1950s suburbia is roughly as alarming as announcing they intend to join a travelling circus. Your heart flutters, not because the outfit is offensive, though it is boldly striped, but because of what it represents. Individuality, independence, the beginning of opinions that extend beyond acceptable topics like weather, school lunches, and the moral importance of starched collars. Outside, Carol, the neighbourhood's unofficial youth behaviour analyst, pretends to water her azaleas while keeping a laser-focused gaze on your home. Too dramatically on the front porch, she notices. If they sigh too dramatically on the front porch, she notices. Let's talk about why teenagers terrify suburbia. Teenagers are unpredictable. They change hairstyles. They change friends. They experiment with slang. They roll their eyes with Olympic skill. Every time your teenager rebels even slightly, the neighbourhood trembles at the possibility that you, the parent, have lost control. And loss of parental control in the 1950s is a social earthquake. Your teen steps outside with a record tucked under their arm, a record with a beat so lively it might summon the devil himself, according to half the PTA. Carol's watering can freezes mid-air. She squints. You feel judged on a cellular level your teen doesn't notice. They wave to a friend, hop on their bike and ride off with a confidence that makes you both proud and terrified. You smile weakly at Carol, who returns a look that communicates, interesting, very interesting. Inside the house, you begin mentally rehearsing excuses. They're just going through a phase. All teenagers experiment. It's the music, not moral decline. You should have seen me at their age. I wore a scarf. But the truth is, you're nervous too. Teenagers straddle the line between childhood innocence and adult decision-making. They're loud, opinionated, and completely unpredictable. They ask questions suburbia doesn't like answering. Why do we do things this way? Why is that important? Why does everyone care about the lawn so much? Teenagers crave honesty. Suburbia craves performance. It's a natural collision. Later that afternoon, your teen returns home with a group of friends. You brace yourself. A group of teenagers is not just a group. It is a statement, a warning shot, a roaming committee of chaos. They laugh loudly, too loudly, and you can practically hear Mrs. Henderson dialing her sister to report the developing situation. The teens gather in your kitchen, raiding your fridge with the enthusiasm of wild animals discovering their first picnic. They talk about school, about music, about dreams of owning cars that are not station wagons. You hover nearby, pretending to tidy a counter while covertly monitoring for signs of imminent rebellion. Then you hear it. The word. The forbidden word. Unfair. Teenagers love the word unfair. It is their battle cry, their thesis statement, their explanation for everything from curfews to chores, and suburbia hates the word unfair. It suggests authority can be questioned, that rules are negotiable, that feelings exist. You steady yourself. They aren't misbehaving, they're just being teenagers, testing boundaries, finding edges. And suburbia hates edges, prefers everything smooth, symmetrical, beige. As the teens disperse, two neighbours appear at the end of your driveway, engaging in a suspiciously timed conversation. Kids grow up so fast, one says, her tone sweet enough to bake a pie. The other replies, eyes drifting toward your porch, some faster than others. You smile politely, the universal adult expression for I do not receive your judgment at this time. Your teenager re-enters the house, hair slightly messier, mood slightly lighter, record still under their arm. At dinner they mumble vague responses, shrug at questions, roll eyes at comments. They're exhausting and wonderful and baffling and brilliant. They're everything you once were, and everything suburbia once pretended it wasn't. Later, after they've gone to bed, you stand at their doorway for a moment, soft light spilling across shelves of books, half-finished homework, and stacks of records that would scandalize the PTA. You realize something important. Your teenager isn't a threat to suburbia. Your teenager is a reminder that life doesn't stay still, that people grow, change, challenge, become. They are proof that beneath the stiff rules and beige curtains, the human spirit still wriggles around like a kid refusing to sit still at dinner. The neighborhood may inhale sharply every time your teen steps outside in a new outfit, but you exhale. Because wildcards make the world interesting. And in 1950s suburbia, interest is the most rebellious thing of all. You signed up for safety, stability, a yard, good schools. In return, you agreed to blend in, to perform, to smile. The dream is beautiful as long as you follow the rules. The sales brochure never mentioned the fine print. It showed pastel houses, shining driveways, and happy families beaming from perfect porches. It promised a slice of paradise, safety for your children, predictability for your days, and fresh-cut grass beneath your feet. What it did not mention was that moving into suburbia is less like buying a home, and more like entering into a lifelong unspoken agreement, the suburban contract. At first, the dream feels soft, warm, inviting. You arrive with hope and boxes. Neighbours appear smiling, bearing casseroles, advice, and mildly invasive curiosity. You're grateful, relieved. You tell yourself, this is what we wanted, what we worked for, and it is. But slowly you begin to feel the weight of the contract settle around your shoulders. Let's outline the terms. Term 1. You will maintain your home meticulously. A peeling shutter is not just a peeling shutter. It is a breach of contract, a sign that you might be slipping financially, morally, or psychologically. You must paint, polish, weed, mow, scrub, and rake with religious devotion. The neighbourhood must feel that you care. Caring is everything. Term 2. You will not disturb the uniformity. Colour outside the beige lines at your own risk. You want a bright blue door? A bold mailbox? Curtains with patterns that evoke joy? Careful. Joy is wonderful, but not if it threatens the neutral palette of the block. Your house is not just your house. It is part of a collage, a mosaic of harmony. A single discordant tile can break the illusion. Term 3. You will participate. Barbecues, block parties, PTA meetings, church suppers, bake sales, fundraisers, lawn competitions, bridge nights. Attendance is encouraged. Absence is recorded. You must cheerfully engage in communal activities, not because you always want to, but because participation confirms you're invested in the dream. The dream only functions if everyone consents enthusiastically. Term 4. You will smile. This may be the most important clause. Smiling proves stability. Smiling protects you from suspicion. Smiling reassures others that you are thriving, functioning, coping, and performing your role with grace. A smile says, we're fine, everything's fine. Please keep believing this. If you falter, you may receive a gentle inquiry. Everything all right? Which translates to, we noticed. Don't let it happen again. Term 5. You will raise model citizens. Your children are living signatures on your portion of the contract. Their manners, grades, clothing, behaviour, volume level, emotional expression, all part of your performance evaluation. If they deviate, even briefly, the contract becomes strained. You must correct, guide, adjust, mould. Your parenting is not private. It is a communal observation. Term 6. You will aspire, quietly. Ambition is encouraged, but only the acceptable kind. Promotions are celebrated, fancy cars are admired, as long as they don't outshine the Joneses too much. But deep desires, personal dreams, those must be whispered. Suburbia supports progress, not disruption. Over time, you realize something profound. The suburban dream is not passive. It requires constant upkeep, constant vigilance, constant agreement. You tend your lawn not just to keep it green, but to keep it symbolic. You decorate your home not just for yourself, but for the viewing pleasure of anyone driving by at 15 miles per hour. You check your curtains, your clothing, your children's behavior, your car's shine, your landscaping, your tone of voice, your visible emotions. The contract asks for compliance, but also for performance. And yet there is beauty here too. The dream offers protection, a shield from chaos. A place where you know your neighbours, where you attend school plays, where children ride bikes, where block parties glow with fireflies and laughter. A place where people look out for each other, even if they also look at each other. You sit on your porch at dusk one evening, listening to sprinklers hiss and crickets chirp. The sky's pink, the street is quiet, and somewhere down the block, someone grills hot dogs with too much enthusiasm. You feel the gentle weight of the contract, yes, but also the comfort it brings. Because for all its pressure, suburbia offers something rare and fragile, a sense of belonging, even if that belonging is conditional. You sip your lemonade, watching the porch lights blink on one by one. For a moment you feel at peace. You think, maybe this is worth it. Maybe the dream is worth the demands. But even in that peaceful moment, you know the truth. The suburban dream is beautiful, but only if you keep signing the contract every single day with a smile. Evening settles in. Lights flick on one by one like synchronized fireflies. You sit in your tidy living room, aware that tomorrow the ritual begins again. The grass will grow. The neighbours will glance. The performance continues. The quiet of suburbia at night is unlike anything else. It has a polished stillness, like someone buffed the entire neighbourhood with wax and expectations. The sky darkens slowly, deliberately, as if even the sunset must behave itself. Houses glow warmly from within, each one a tiny diorama of correctness. The sidewalks are empty, the lawns are still, and behind every lit window, families resume the subtle dance of appearing perfectly fine. You lean back on the sofa, the cushions firm and polite. The living room around you feels curated, staged, books straightened, coffee table cleared, decorative bowl filled with fruit that nobody dares to eat. Even the air smells like gentle domestic order. A hint of clean laundry, a trace of dinner, a whisper of furniture polish. Let's talk about nighttime suburbia, the quiet stage reset. All day long suburbia performs. Cars leave driveways at predictable times. Children play at acceptable volumes. Curtains are adjusted for maximum propriety. Patriotic flags flutter just so. But at night, something shifts. Not a loosening of rules, but a smoothing over. Delivered. The evaluations you endured delivered. The evaluations you endured from window watchers and polite conversationalists. You think about how every gesture, mowing, waving, walking, shopping, felt like signing your name to an invisible contract again and again. And now, at last, you're allowed to exhale. A little, but not too much. Because even in the evening, the ritual isn't fully paused. You glance toward your front window. The curtains are drawn, as they should be at this hour. Not too early, which would suggest reclusiveness, and not too late, which would imply carelessness or exhibitionism. No, properly timed curtains are a subtle art, understood intuitively by every respectable household. Outside, porch lights glow like tiny beacons of stability. A few houses down, mister. Henderson steps out to water his hydrangeas for the third time today, not because they need water, but because hydration is an acceptable excuse to check on everyone's lighting choices. He nods at your house in approval, even though he can't see you. You nod back instinctively because you can feel him watching. Inside, your spouse tidies up the last of the evening dishes. The kitchen hums with normalcy. The children settle into bedtime routines, their laughter muffled behind closed doors. The radio plays something soft and familiar, filling the room with a gentle reassurance that everything, absolutely everything, is exactly as it should be. But you know what sits beneath the surface. You know how tiring it is to maintain this life, to smile when you're worn thin, to nod through conversations that feel scripted, to keep your lawn sharp, your curtains straight, your voice pleasant, your worries hidden. You feel the quiet pressure in your chest, not crushing but persistent. Tomorrow will be the same as today, and tomorrow will be the same as today. And today wasn't terrible, just structured. You rise from the sofa to turn off a lamp, leaving one light on near the window, of course, because fully dark houses raise questions. You straighten a magazine that was slightly askew. You fluff a pillow. These are not chores. These are peace offerings to the gods of order. You head to the bedroom, but you pause in the hallway to look back at the living room one more time. The glow is soft. The room looks calm. You look calm. You've done it again. You've completed the day's performance. Tomorrow the alarm will ring. You will open the curtains at the correct time. You will mow or wave or commute or host or smile. The lawn will grow. The neighbours will glance. The contract will renew. But for now, for this brief, quiet moment, you allow yourself the smallest breath of honesty. You're tired. You're human. You're doing your best. And in 1950s suburbia, that's the part no one ever sees, but the part that matters most. You're invited to a Tupperware party. It sounds innocent. It is not. This is a carefully disguised economic summit disguised as lemonade and polite laughter. The woman hosting is not just selling plastic containers, she is building influence. The more lids that snap shut in your living room, the higher your suburban credibility rises. Decline to purchase a storage bowl set and suddenly you're not very supportive. In 1950s suburbia, airtight leftovers are important. Airtight social alliances are essential. You step into the Hendersons' living room, greeted by a display that resembles a cheerful pastel armoury. Stacks of bowls, cups, containers, and oddly shaped compartments tower on card tables. They have names like the Marvellous Modular Mate and the Miracle Burper. Everything smells faintly of lemon cleaner and opportunity. The other women have already gathered, smiling with a brightness normally reserved for high-stakes poker games and hostage negotiations. Because this is not just plastic. This is power. The hostess, Mrs. Henderson, floats through the room with the serene authority of a queen conducting diplomacy. Her dress is impeccable. Her hair is sprayed into architectural perfection. Her voice is charming and soft, but make no mistake, this woman could lead an infantry battalion if needed. She taps a spoon gently against a cup. The room falls silent. Showtime. Let's talk about how the hierarchy works. The host of a Tupperware party is temporarily elevated to a position of profound suburban influence. She provides the refreshments, pastel-frosted cookies, little sandwiches that somehow never lose their shape, lemonade poured from an immaculate pitcher, and in return she expects loyalty, admiration and purchases. Purchases are important. They are currency, allegiance, testimony. As the demonstration begins, she lifts a bowl like it's the Holy Grail. "Now watch this," she says sweetly, pressing the lid on with a satisfying thump and then giving it a gentle twist until it burps. The room gasps softly. Someone claps. You realise you're witnessing not a sales pitch, but a ritual, a ceremonial display of domestic innovation. Mrs. Donnelly leans over to whisper, "Her sister-in-law did not get this many people to attend last month." There it is. The tension, the undercurrent. Tupperware parties are not merely gatherings, they're social tournaments. The hostess demonstrates how Tupperware can store leftovers, organise pantries, prevent fridge disasters, and even pack lunches with an unheard-of level of optimism. Each feature is described with escalating enthusiasm, and the crowd nods reverently. You find yourself nodding too, even though you're fairly certain your leftovers have never staged a prison escape attempt. Then comes the competitive portion. The prize drawings. Tickets are handed out. Names are called. Winners beam like they've received Nobel Prizes instead of lime green measuring cups. Losing a drawing isn't just losing a drawing, it's a symbolic dip in social luck. The winners will be casually congratulated for days. During the break, people cluster near the cookies to evaluate the demonstration. "Oh, her snap technique is flawless," someone whispers. "She could lead the entire district," another murmurs. "I heard she might become a consultant," a third says, eyes wide. Becoming a Tupperware consultant is Suburbia's version of a political campaign. Those women are respected, feared, admired. They earn money. They influence purchase patterns. They host better parties. They possess catalogues full of colourful plastic dominance. Back in the circle, order forms are passed around. They look innocent. Rows of items, tidy prices, but you feel the gravity of them. Set of mixing bowls feels safe. A small set of mixing bowls feels safe. A small container set equals moderate loyalty. But the family storage solution feels too committed, too eager. You leave it blank. Mrs. Henderson glances your way with the faintest dip of a smile. You worry you've made a grave error. As the party winds down, purchases are collected, compliments made, plans for future gatherings whispered. Everyone leaves with at least one piece of Tupperware, a small token certifying their participation in the ritual. You walk home gripping a pastel container with a lid that boasts spill-proof technology. It feels oddly symbolic. In suburbia, nothing can leak, especially reputations. As you place the container in your kitchen cabinet, you realise you've ascended one rung higher in the suburban hierarchy. Your leftovers will be safe, and your social standing, at least for now, is airtight. Because here, Tupperware isn't just plastic storage, it's diplomacy, it's allegiance, it's survival in cheerful pastel form. The rotary phone sits quietly on its little table, pretending to be harmless. But the moment it rings, information begins to travel at astonishing speeds. One call to clarify whether you're attending the church picnic becomes 3 updates about who argued at last week's barbecue and 5 subtle concerns about the Wilson boys' posture. You hang up feeling informed and slightly exposed, because somewhere, someone else is hanging up after discussing you. You glance at the phone, the glossy handset, the smooth circular dial, the cord coiled like a patient snake. It looks innocent, decoratively perched beside an embroidered doily. But in 1950s suburbia, the telephone isn't just a communication device. It's a portal, a conduit, a community nervous system pulsing with news, speculation, and weaponized politeness. When it rings, it always rings loudly, urgently, as if announcing something is happening and you must hear about it immediately. You lift the handset and give your greeting in the approved tone. Warm, friendly, but not too enthusiastic. Enthusiasm suggests availability, and availability invites long conversations about things you absolutely did not intend to discuss today. This particular call begins with a harmless subject. "Just checking if you're coming to the church picnic on Saturday," says the familiar voice. A neighbour, a friend, a subtle intelligence operative. You confirm your attendance. "Oh, marvellous," she says. Then the true purpose of the call begins. Well, speaking of gatherings, the phrase that is never followed by anything benign. She launches into a detailed account of last week's barbecue at the Donnellys. Apparently someone burned a burger. Someone else took 2 brownies instead of 1. And there was just a comment about the Joneses' new patio umbrella being a bit bold. You can hear the capital letters in bold. You murmur the appropriate responses. "Oh dear, is that so? Meanwhile, your brain is taking notes against its will. Because in suburbia, information is not just information, it's social currency, and the telephone is the mint where it's manufactured. Let's talk about how this telephone economy works. Every call is an exchange of knowledge. Every detail shared is a coin spent. But you must never sound eager. Eagerness is suspicious. Instead, you sound reluctant but listening. A subtle posture that keeps you from appearing nosy while still acquiring the necessary neighbourhood intelligence. But information never flows in just one direction. After updating you about the barbecue, your neighbour seamlessly transitions to local health assessments. Did you see the Wilson boy? Poor posture. I do hope his parents address that. You nod silently, even though she can't see you. Poor posture today could mean delinquency tomorrow. It's a slippery slope paved with slouching. Then comes the community speculation. And I heard the Patterson's milk wasn't brought in until almost noon yesterday, a scandal delivered in a whisper. Busy morning, I suppose, you say diplomatically. The kind of that means absolutely not. You begin to feel that subtle prickle of vulnerability, because if conversations like this happen about the Wilsons, the Pattersons, the Donnellys, they also happen about you. You picture your laundry line, your lawn, your late arrival home last Thursday, your child's slightly loud laugh. In someone else's living room at someone else's telephone table, these details become topics, interpretations, mysteries. Still, you continue the conversation. You must. Telephonic participation is part of the suburban contract. Ignoring calls is impolite. Returning them too quickly is overeager. Returning them too slowly suggests hiding something. You must call back at the ideal time, roughly 1 hour later than a polite person, but 1 hour earlier than a recluse. The conversation shifts again. Well, anyway, we'll all be at the picnic. Except perhaps the Hendersons, they've been a bit quiet. Quiet is dangerous. Quiet invites theories. Theories become narratives. Narratives become truths, regardless of accuracy. Eventually, the call winds down. Well, lovely chatting. Indeed. So good to hear your voice. You take care now. All said in tones bright enough to hide the fact that this call has redistributed the neighbourhood's collective emotional economy. You hang up gently and sit there for a moment staring at the phone. The quiet returns deceptively peaceful. You know it won't last. Because somewhere, in another living room decorated with lace doilies and ceramic knickknacks, a different phone is already ringing, someone else is answering. Because in 1950s suburbia, the telephone doesn't simply carry voices, it carries reputations, it carries anxieties, it carries the subtle hum of a community constantly monitoring itself. And tomorrow, when it rings again, you'll answer. Because you have to. Because you're part of the network. Because the gossip superhighway never closes. And now the street is quiet. The porch lights click off one by one. The sprinklers finish their gentle ticking across perfectly obedient lawns. Somewhere in the distance, a garage door lowers with a soft mechanical sigh, sealing away another polished station wagon for the night. You made it. You survived the mowing rituals, the casserole diplomacy, the polite warfare of PTA meetings, and the quiet intensity of curtain-based judgment. You kept your lawn trimmed, your smile measured, your opinions carefully folded and stored like leftover meatloaf in socially acceptable Tupperware. You performed, and that was the job. Because for all the jokes, for all the beige pressure and chrome-plated expectations, the people who lived in those neighbourhoods were doing what humans have always done. They were trying to build safety after chaos, trying to create stability after depression and war, trying to raise children in a world that felt unpredictable and frightening. The rules were strict, the smiles were sometimes forced, the conformity could feel suffocating. But underneath it all, there was something very human. People wanted belonging. They wanted security. They wanted to believe that if they followed the rules, mowed the lawn, hosted the barbecue, waved at the right moment, life would stay steady, that nothing would collapse, that the world would remain as tidy as their hedges, and in many ways they were resilient in their own quiet, suburban way. So tonight, as you lie in your bed with central heating humming softly, as your water runs clean, and your lawn can grow wildly without a neighbourhood tribunal forming at dawn, maybe offer a small, sleepy thank you to those anxious, casserole-bearing ancestors. History is rarely simple. It's awkward, it's pressured, it's full of unspoken rules and matching curtains. But it's also proof that people, even when boxed in by expectation, still laugh at barbecues, still fall in love, still sneak moments of rebellion between PTA meetings, still try, in their own imperfect way, to build something stable for the next generation. And now, the blinds are closed, the lawn is trimmed, the neighbourhood is finally asleep, so let your shoulders relax, let the performance end, let the rules fade. There's no one peeking through the curtains here, just quiet, just warmth, just rest.